Hey guys. This is part 11 of What If Naruto is hiding her identity and secretly a girl. Hit like and subscribe if you like this one, and also please check the author in the description. Let's start.
We are pain, that's all. We are God.
Chapter 59, Pure Heart's Rage. Shikamaru was on his way to one of the food warehouses to transport supplies to the food preparation bays when he noticed that people were staring at him. He shrugged it off at first, believing he must be mistaken. He was assured that this was not the case when Genma appeared beside him, slinging an arm over Shikamaru's shoulders. One look at the man's grin made the Nara cringe. "I had you pegged all wrong." "Oh, how so?" Shikamaru asked dryly, brushing the man's arm off and trying to not yelp when Genma's hand brushed his behind. He could tell by Genma's cackle that a reaction would simply encourage him. "Well, I thought that you would choose a woman who was maybe a bit feisty, but overall someone who would just let you do whatever you wanted. But nope." Genma grinned widely at him. "You're a bit of a masochist, aren't you?" "I'm still talking to you, so maybe I am," Shikamaru retorted, rolling his eyes. The man sniggered, falling into step with Shikamaru. "But seriously, never did I think you'd go for the most energetic, driven, and mischievous person in the village. Granted, I can see a bonus in dating someone who likes looking like a male and a female, though I didn't think you'd be into that sort of things. I'm a man of mystery." He sighed, wondering if the Jonin was going to leave him alone anytime soon. "Still, you should be proud of yourself. You are dating the village's current #1 bachelor/bachelorette. There are a few people in the village who now hate you. Please tell me you're one of them, and you will never talk to me again after this." Genma laughed, clapping him on the back. "Naruto is hot and all, and so are you, and you might both be of age, but I'm older than you, by a lot." "How much exactly?" Shikamaru asked with a snigger. "That's not important," Genma waved off. "Funny, 'cause I could have sworn Asuma-sensei commented that you're over twice my age." "Well, then it's a good thing I don't want to date you," Genma snapped. "Don't remind a man of his age." "Funny, my mum says something similar, but without the whine in her voice." The Nara was smart enough to duck when the other man swung at him. "Not nice. But half the village is trying to find out if you really are dating Naruto, or if it's just a rumor. So that's why you're here. You want confirmation." "Nope. Either way I'm entertained, but I've seen how you two interact, and Enko was able to find out Naruto's gender after turning into you and feeling Naruto up." "What?" "Not important. So it's not that surprising that you two are dating. Hell, I've known for ages that Naruto likes you." At Shikamaru's surprised look, Genma laughed. "I've been Naruto's drinking buddy since she got back. She might not get drunk, but she does get a bit loose-lipped when the rest of us are drunk. She obviously thought none of us would remember, but she mentions you a lot, and has even admitted that she thought you were attractive. You know, this is information that would have been helpful a few days ago," Shikamaru grumbled. The man shrugged unapologetically. "What is said over drinks is not allowed to be used against someone. If it was, I would be screwed." Genma leant back, clear looking at Shikamaru's ass. When the Nara turned sharply to stop his staring, Genma laughed. "You know, however your relationship with Naruto goes, it'll still be entertaining for me. But be careful, 'cause if you break her heart the village is gonna be pissed." Yeah, Shikamaru muttered as Genma walked off. Watching the man leave, he realized that the Jonin hadn't said how he found out about Shikamaru and Naruto. It took him most of the day to find out how the village discovered the relationship that most of their friends didn't even know about. Naruto had mentioned her interaction with Sakura the day before, in which she not only told Sakura about Shikamaru but also about her gender. Apparently Sakura was kind enough to keep Naruto's gender a secret, which was surprising, though the pink-haired girl had no clue why Naruto hid her gender, so she was probably being careful. However, the fact that Naruto, the village hero, was dating Shikamaru was not something that Sakura was apparently able to keep to herself. Only a few people were actually brave enough to ask Shikamaru if it was true. On his way home, he couldn't help but hope that the village gained a way to entertain themselves so they would leave Shikamaru and Naruto to work out their relationship in private. Although he had no experience with dating, he had noticed through Ryota and Eri that the first few months of a relationship often determined whether it would survive to the long term. Having their relationship stared at and evaluated by the entire village would only make it worse. Sighing, he decided to push those thoughts to the back of his mind, especially when he noticed his fingers twitching around the stem of the sunflower he held. A reward for helping Aunt Momiji tend to her garden. Well, as much as a reward can be when he literally swiped it, and noticed Aunt Momiji turning away as though she didn't notice with a smile on her face. He went to Naruto's and Ino's room, knowing the genin liked to spend a portion of her free time in there even if she was back to sleeping in his room. He knocked, receiving no answer. With a shrug, Shikamaru figured he would leave the sunflower on Naruto's nightstand to surprise her. It was as he turned to leave that he spotted the notebook Naruto had pinched off Shikamaru's father weeks before. Shikaku had happily let Naruto have it, and some writing utensils even if no one had a clue why she wanted them. Although the blonde was much smarter than many first believed and could now read adequately, her writing was still lacking. She had taken to randomly asking people how to spell various words. Some of the words had piqued Shikamaru's interest. With only a moment of hesitation, Shikamaru picked up the notebook. He flicked through the first few pages that appeared to be lists of things he didn't understand. Finally, he reached pages that were filled with a more coherent structure. I like to think that the village really didn't know what was happening. Unfortunately, that gets hard to believe at times. Even though we were always told not to talk about it, there had been villagers who saw what was happened. I never saw them myself, but those who did said they gave no reaction reaction. I can understand people not caring about me cause I'm a monster, they see me as a monster. But really, Mrs. Haruma is the real monster. Even the Ninetales thinks the things she did were twisted. Even though I was only in the orphanage for 5 years, I still had to pay her over half the allowance I was given when I left the orphanage. It wasn't until I was a genin and had gone on a heap of missions was I able to pay her back. She makes us do that. Pay her, as though we are grateful that she raised us and abused us for years. But I suppose that's the stuff I should be talking about, writing about, the abuse. One of the main things she did was not give us food. She would give us enough to survive, but only after we had done our duties. We had to clean the entire orphanage, select children cooked for her, we did all the laundry, and often had to get into the roof to get the dead rats. That was just the regular stuff. Whenever she felt like, even if we didn't do anything, she would go nuts. She would make orphans fight each other to see who would get an extra meal. A lot of the vicious fighters disappeared during the night. We were never sure where they went. She also liked making orphan soup through different stress techniques. One of the main ones forced us onto our knees, our hands tied behind our backs and connected to a pipe, making us lean back so that a drop of water repeatedly dropped on our foreheads. It sounds silly, but after a while your muscles hurt, and all you can focus on is the drip, drip, drip. Again, those that did well disappeared, but only the best. The ones who didn't cry, break down, and especially not those who wet themselves. Those ones got at least a night in the box, still smelling and wet. That was her favorite thing. Putting us in the box. It was how we got our names. But she doesn't know about the name. Scratched above the little door, where you can't see unless you're inside, were the words, "We are the children of iron." Those were the only words I could read until a friend made sure I learned how to read at age 8. I used to send my fingers bloody tracing those words. It was a comfort. We had iron in our blood. It hardened our hearts so that we didn't care about what Mrs. Haruma did to us, and so we didn't care about anyone. If she knew who you cared about, she would hurt them when you messed up instead of you. Feelings were bad. Shikamaru hadn't noticed his hands were shaking until the messy words started becoming eligible. The sound of footsteps outside the door made him snap the book closed and drop it onto the bed. Seconds later, Naruto walked in, smiling at the sight of Shikamaru. He noticed, however, that Naruto's eyes did slide worryingly to her notebook. "Hi, why are you in my room?" Naruto asked, moving into his arms and kissing him. "I see, you can come into my room whenever, but I can't with yours?" Shikamaru teased. When Naruto replied by scrunching up her nose at him, he laughed. Close your eyes. Giving an exaggerated sigh, Naruto did as he asked. He grabbed the sunflower off the nightstand and proceeded to run the petals over the blonde's nose, making her squirm. You can open your eyes. Naruto smiled at the sight of the flower. Taking it from Shikamaru's hand, she sniffed the flower before sitting down on the bed. So, how much of my notebook did you read? Shikamaru stared at Naruto, wondering if he could deny his snooping. Although her mouth was hidden behind the sunflower, the way she stared at him told him she was smirking, waiting to see what he would say in his defense. For a moment he simply blinked at the way her eyes shined so brightly against the contrast of the yellow petals. With a sigh, Shikamaru sat down heavily beside Naruto. You mad? A little. Naruto shrugged, putting the sunflower on the nightstand and drawing her notebook into her lap. I didn't want anyone to read it. Then why did you write it? Shikamaru asked softly, his knee brushing hers as he reached out and took her hand. A historian wants to write a book on the children of Iron, to bring us out for everyone to see, and to know what happened. I didn't want to do it at first, mainly cause I don't want you reading any of it, but I realized that continuing to be silent it gives the impression that what happened was alright and it's not. I want people to stop talking about her like she's a veteran that deserves respect. She's a horrible person and people need to know that. Yeah, I got that impression. He ran his hand down his face. I only read about a page and a half and that was enough for me to want to see her dead. Naruto started flicking through her notebook until she reached the page she was looking for. She passed the notebook to Shikamaru, pointing at the second paragraph. This is the only section I would want you to read, if I had to have you read any. It had clearly been written recently, perhaps within the last few days. The spelling mistakes had lessened compared to what Shikamaru had read earlier. Putting a hand on Naruto's knee, he looked down at the messy words. I've had many fellow orphans ask me why I want to be Hokage for a village that let us suffer. It would be easy to say that I wanted to help change from within, but that's not the case. It was one of the main reasons to begin with, as well as the fact that I wanted to earn the village's respect. But that's not the case anymore. I thought that most of the village was filled with taint evil, some kind of hate that led them to violence. Even those who had showed me kindness treated me poorly the next chance they got, like my now friend Choji. But when I left the orphanage I had trouble getting any food at all. Mrs. Haruma often stole my money to pay her stupid orphan bill and I wasn't able to tell anyone. One night when my stomach felt like it was ripping itself apart with hunger, a man found me, someone who had reason to hate the Nine Tails, and instead of hurting me, like I expected, he looked after me, he fed me. And he showed me that people's hate could be killed, stopped, extinguished with compassion, with their desire to show compassion. Iruka-sensei continued to look after me from then on. And he wasn't the only one to show me kindness for no other reason than to be kind. Many of the people I care about deeply now started off as strangers who were people I had distrusted. I'm ashamed of that. Kiba was a force, and all I could think when seeing him was how much a punch from him would hurt, but instead of hurting me he uses that force to protect his friends. Anko is a sadistic bitch, but that's something I now love about her. And Shino was too quiet and too easily blends in the background, but instead of using that against me he mainly just makes me jump out of my skin. All I could see were possible threats when I looked at people. I think I realized how wrong that was and how much that held me back when I noticed a fellow student watching me. I instantly thought the worst, and I was partly right. He knew a secret about me I had tried to hide. He had realized that I couldn't read, but instead of using it to get me kicked out of school he told Iruka-sensei so he could help me. That was actually the first time that someone had done something for me that was so simple and yet so helpful. I wasn't starving, I wasn't injured, I was just illiterate. I waited for it to bite me in the ass, but instead that same person bought me a gift, just because. Instead of wanting to just stop hate causing violence, I want to be Hokage to encourage compassion and kindness even in the simplest of ways. I know it's not great, and I'm not the best writer, Naruto admitted, squirming in her seat. But I wanted you to see, after you read some of the other stuff, that I don't let it blind me to the good that outweighs what that woman did to me and the others. And I wanted you to know that even though I'm a dummy with emotions, I have noticed how you've treated me over the years and what you've done for me." Shikamaru looked at the blonde, who was still fidgeting in her seat. He dropped the notebook, reaching out and grabbing Naruto's hand. With a sharp tug, he pulled the blonde to him, kissing her. She slipped easily onto his lap, allowing him to wrap his arms tightly around her. Her knees pressed into his sides, keeping Naruto secure on her perch. It was a comfort to know that Naruto had noticed him and his affections over the years. Pulling back, he searched Naruto's face, trying to decide if she was hiding something from him. There were so many pages in that notebook covered in her scribbling. He had seen only a small portion, making him wonder how much detail she went into about what she wouldn't say out loud. He felt a stab at the thought of her being willing to pour her secrets into a simple notebook, but stayed silent with him. There wasn't really anything he wished to hide from her, but then, he hadn't gone through what she had. Looking at her blue eyes, the bright, unnatural color still so captivating, he realized that whilst she might have hidden things in the past from lack of trust, now she had a vastly different reason. She hadn't yelled or shut down at realizing he had invaded her privacy because she wasn't worried about him discovering her secrets, but about how he would handle her them. Naruto had shown him what she had so that he could have a glimpse into her mindset. It helped to remove the helplessness and anger he felt over Naruto's past trauma. He still wished that someone had been there to stop it, but at least he knew Naruto was doing everything she could to work through her past. "You know, you still surprise me with how forgiving you can be," Shikamaru commented. "I'm starting to think you're just really easy to surprise, almost as easy as you are to predict," teased Naruto before squealing at the man's wandering fingers. She tried to get up, but that only gave him access to the back of her legs. When he started to tickle them, she fell sideways onto the bed, trying to squirm away. "Shikamaru!" She tried to snap between bursts of laughter. "I thought I was easy to predict," Shikamaru taunted, moving to pin her to the bed and continue his assault on her sides. "Maybe if you tell me what the hell Enko was doing in my form, I'll stop." "Never!" Naruto tried to push Shikamaru off whilst laughing. All she succeeded in was getting her wrists pinned under one of the man's hands. "So am I predictable?" Shikamaru nipped her neck as she shook beneath him. "No, I take it back." "Good. I'm not going to stop tickling you though." Next moment Naruto had managed to throw herself to one side, rolling them both of the bed with a laugh. She loomed over Shikamaru, his hands now pinned either side of his head by Naruto's. She grinned in triumph down at him before kissing him deeply, eliciting a moan of surprise from the man beneath her. She let go of his hands, allowing him to lose one in her hair as the other pushed on her lower back, making her press into him. He could feel her heart beating rapidly against his chest. His hand slipped up the back of Naruto's shirt, feeling her warm, smooth skin. He felt her shudder as his rough palms scraped against her flesh. He smiled into the gasp she gave. He stretched, feeling his spine pop. He sighed as he looked at the stack of scrolls sitting on the desk. He and Shiho had been tasked with sorting the intact documents and rewriting any documents that had been damaged. There were obviously things that they couldn't salvage, but apparently Shiho had a nearly perfect photographic memory and read boring documents in her free time in order to think of better codes. He was surprised at how many she had managed to remember so far. It was a long, annoying task that had made his wrist ache from all the writing. Shiho, even after he had turned her down, still took to staring at him with a wistful expression and blushing whenever he spoke to her or looked in her direction. Her affections actually made him feel guilty whenever his shirt rubbed against the small bite mark Naruto had playfully left on his shoulder the night before. With a grunt he tipped his head back, his hair that was in its now standard half-updo fell over the chair. His eyes were closed as he tried to count how many hours he had left. He jumped when someone started kissing him. His eyes snapped open. The up-close, blurry view of a tan ear and a tan cheek with 3 whisker lines filled his vision. Closing his eyes and burying a hand into messy blonde hair, he kissed her back. When Naruto pulled away, he gave a whine, making her laugh. "Having fun?" the blonde asked, sitting on Shikamaru's lap and putting plastic bag on her knee. "I was until you stopped kissing me," Shikamaru admitted, burying his face into her neck, peppering her skin with small pecks. When the woman in his arms simply laughed, he nipped at the flesh under his lips, grinning when Naruto gave a groan. If we keep acting like this, the entire village will know we're together in a matter of days. There's already speculation. So? Is that something that bothers you? Naruto muttered, squirming on Shikamaru's lap. He looked up at Naruto before snorting. He put his hand on her thigh, which was exposed thanks to her shorts. Are you kidding? I want everyone to know. I'm pretty sure most of the village knows about my feelings for you, so it would be nice if they now knew that my pining wasn't for nothing. Naruto's laugh made him grin. I'm serious. I'm thinking of spraying it on the Hokage faces. Taking a very me approach to it all. Well, I figured I should take you for inspiration. Though I do like having our privacy. He kissed her neck again, enjoying her squeak of surprise. Not that I'm complaining, but what are you doing here? I thought you were visiting the Foundation members again. I did, but then I brought you lunch. She held up the plastic bag, letting the smell waft from it to Shikamaru's nose. His stomach gave a grumble in reply. He pulled her closer. Man, I love you. Naruto blushed as she pulled out 2 containers with stew and some utensils. She cleared her throat, looking over at Shiho, who was staring intensely at the scroll in front of her. Oh, I didn't realize you had company. You can have my stew. No, Shiho waved off. I was planning to meet some friends for lunch anyway. Bumping into the table and refusing to meet either of their eyes, Shiho jumped up, rushing from the tent. Shikamaru hadn't meant to flaunt his relationship in front of the woman like that, but the fact that he had simply forgotten that she was there made him feel worse. Did I do something? Naruto asked, blinking like an owl. No, truthfully, she showed interest in me before Pain's attack and I turned her down, telling her I loved someone else. He blushed, scratching his cheek. Oh, well, I'll try to not to kiss you in front of her again, or at least until she gets over the rejection. Shikamaru sighed, watching Naruto slide onto the table to sit in front of him. He knew what Naruto said was the kinder thing to do, he just didn't like the idea of not being able to kiss the blonde whenever and wherever he wanted. When Naruto laughed, leaning forward to kiss him, he realized he had been pouting. Letting his mouth form into a soft smile, he took the container that Naruto held out to him. He told her what he had been doing all day whilst they ate, even though he knew her day would naturally be more entertaining. That would drive me nuts, Naruto admitted. Lucky for me, I simply spent the day making more friends. How are they going with learning feelings and stuff? He honestly had no way of phrasing his question that didn't sound wrong to his ears. He hadn't met any of the members yet, and had no idea what Naruto and Sai were doing to help them with their mental state. Good-ish. Haru, Sai, and Captain Yamato went through the reports and stuff at the headquarters the other day. I supervised with Ikkyu and Gina. Naruto grinned at the way she had avoided paperwork, unlike Shikamaru. We were able to find out the names of some of the members, mainly those who were in the orphanage and are children of iron. I could tell that it hurt the others that they couldn't find their names. Sai and Captain Yamato were 2 of those people. So today we worked on thinking up names for the others. The idea that they get to choose their own names and have control over them helped them. Some who found out their real names changed their names anyway. Turns out Danzo had bought a couple of people off their parents, and since their parents were the ones who named them, they didn't want to keep them. I'm glad you're able to help them, Shikamaru admitted, but the fact that they worked for Danzo makes me want to tell you to stay away from them. I know it's not fair, but I just want you to stay safe. I know. I want the same for you, but I don't feel in danger around the Foundation members. Actually, Haru found this for me. Putting her food to the side, she pulled a scroll out of her weapons pouch. I mentioned to him how some ninjas had seen orphans in the iron box at the orphanage. Varric said that Uncle Inoichi had seen him in it and done nothing. That's impossible. That's what I said to him. But the historian I told you about has had a number of cases with various people having seen the abuse and done nothing. I couldn't let the book be published and have Uncle's name, and even Iruka-sensei's name be stained like that. That's the only moments others are willing to talk about. The moments others saw them and turned away. I need answers. So Haru got me Mrs. Haruma's file. I'm hoping there are some answers in it, Otherwise I'll ask them in person and see what their account is. Shikamaru gave Naruto's leg a squeeze. I'm positive that there is a reason behind what happened. There is no way that Uncle Inoichi and Irika-sensei would see anyone, especially children, being abused and do nothing. Naruto nodded, putting the scroll down and starting to eat her food again. However, Shikamaru noticed the looks she kept shooting it, as though afraid it would slip away before she got to read the answers it held. When she managed to miss her mouth altogether, and instead poke her cheek with her fork, Shikamaru sighed. He wiped the food from her face, licking it off his thumb as Naruto looked at him questioningly. Putting his food down, he held out the scroll. Just read it. I promise I won't be mad if you choose to read this over eating lunch with me. I understand. Instead of taking the scroll from his hands, she slid off the table and onto his lap, her legs hanging down next to his hips. Gripping his hair in her hands, Naruto slowly leant forward, her eyes scanning his face before she kissed him. He had expected something soft, feather-light, like Naruto had done a number of times before. Instead, her kiss was hard, firm, and dominating. With a small moan of surprise, he submitted to the sensation. His hands slid up her legs, the scroll dropping to the ground as he gripped her hips tightly. When they finally separated, he found himself short of breath. Gasping for air, he looked at the woman in his lap, noticing that her breathing was just as heavy. Her eyes were bright, her cheeks had a flushed look to them, and her lips were swollen and bitten. With a wave of satisfaction, he realized he was the cause for her appearance. Anyone who looked at her would be able to tell that he had kissed her, that she knew of his affections and encouraged them. Swallowing thickly, he had to fight the urge to see how flushed he could make her. What's all this for? Shikamaru asked with a small smile as Naruto buried her face in his neck, hugging him close. I just wanted you to know I appreciate you, Naruto muttered. Something told him that wasn't the whole truth, but he accepted it, knowing when not to push Naruto into admitting things she herself might not understand. Instead, he chuckled. And here I was thinking you were simply stalling. Naruto sniggered. Maybe a little. She sat back before heaving a sigh. What will I do if there isn't a reason? What if they really did see it and didn't do anything? What about if their reasoning is that they didn't want to go up against Danzo? You know that's not the case. But what if it is? Then we'll deal with it, he promised, kissing Naruto's knuckles. With a resolute sigh, Naruto leant to the side, reaching down to grab the scroll. Straightening up, she opened it, scanning its surface slowly. Shikamaru watched as Naruto's expression shifted from fear, to disgust, to mortification, and finally settling on pure rage. As he went to ask her what was wrong, her eyes took on a distant look, and he felt her chakra scatter past him. His heart dropped into his stomach as he realized Naruto was searching for someone. Her eyes came back into focus as she closed the scroll, jumping up from Shikamaru's lap and striding to the exit of the tent. Scrambling to his feet, the man went after her. He caught her just outside, grabbing her wrist to halt her steps. Naruto, what is in there? He yelped. What's in here? Naruto snapped, holding the scroll up. An Uzumaki seal, that's what. I've been studying them since Eiji gave me the books on them. That bitch took one of my clan's seals and used it so that anyone who stepped into the basement of the orphanage without her releasing the jutsu for them would see a nice, child-friendly playroom. She made us feel like we were scum, that no one cared what she did to us, and she used my clan to do it. And the binding she used on all of the orphans besides the first gen and me, the one that stopped them from being able to talk about what happened, that was also an Uzumaki seal. That's why it didn't work on me, because my chakra naturally broke it. Instead, she threatened Yasu to keep me quiet. That monster used the Uzumakis to torment and gag the children of iron, Naruto spat, and I'm going to kill her for it. She turned, starting off in her previous direction. However, Shikamaru wrapped his arms around her waist, feeling her fight his hold. You can't, Naruto. Watch me. No. You'll regret it. He spun her around before holding on to her tightly. You will become exactly what you don't want. You won against pain because you didn't let revenge rule you. She deserves to die. Naruto screamed. Yes, she does. I'm not saying she doesn't. But if you go and murder her, you will become everything you are against. Think clearly. If this was me, if I was the one in your position, what would you do? I'd kill her for you because no one gets to hurt you like that. He gave her a soft smile, stroking her cheek and wiping away a tear. Believe me, I want to kill her. The only thing stopping me is that I know it's not what you would want if you were in your right mind. Think. Use that heart that made me love you. The heart that made the village respect you. What is the right thing to do? What will help the children of Iron heal? Naruto took a deep breath, her eyes closed. When she released it and opened her eyes, they still held the same dark coldness that sent a shiver down Shikamaru's spine. Let me go, Shikamaru. Slowly he released her. He had no idea what she had planned and instead followed behind her, his heart pounding hard enough to make him feel nauseous. Dark chakra fell off Naruto in waves, making people move out of her way as she walked. When the blonde sharply turned into a tent, roughly throwing the tent flap to the side, Shikamaru was close behind her. He stopped mid-step, however, when he saw his father, Uncle Inoichi, Iruka-sensei, Anko, and Lady Tsunade sitting at a table with maps around them. When they saw Naruto, they rushed to cover some of the documents. They had obviously been planning for the coming battle or hiding Naruto away. Luckily for them, Naruto's anger had blinded her to their guilty expressions. Arrest Hiruma. Now! Naruto slapped the scroll down in the middle of the table. She has been hurting children for years and using the Uzumaki seals to hide it. According to Clan Village Alliance's Code 5, Section something, a clan member is allowed to see to the arrest of someone who has stolen or abused knowledge and jutsus that are exclusive to the clan. I'm the last Uzumaki, so I say arrest her. When she's locked up, I'm going to make sure the seal on the Children of Iron is removed and they will tell you how messed up she is. You know Clan Alliance codes? Iruka-sensei muttered in surprise, only to shrink back at Naruto's glare. Of course. I am going to be Hokage one day. I have to know these things. What are the Children of Iron? Uncle Inoichi asked as Shikaku took the scroll from under Naruto's hand. People who have been abused and tortured by Hiruma whilst in her care. A historian by the name of Masako has gathered some accounts of Hiruma's treatment from the first gens. Something tells me she'll have more to put in her book after I remove the gag. Shikaku turned to Lady Tsunade, who was staring at Naruto as though she had grown an extra head. From the looks of this scroll, it does seem that Naruto, as an Uzumaki, has the right to have Hiruma arrested whilst we verify the accusations. Shaking herself out of her daze, Lady Tsunade nodded, giving Shikaku and Uncle Inoichi permission to track down the woman. Naruto told them exactly where to find them before releasing a breath that seemed to deflate her. Rushing forward, Shikamaru held Naruto to him. Are you alright? He asked, staring at her face. I want to hurt her so much that it sickens me. But I honestly can't believe she's going to be punished for what she did. If this all falls apart, I'm going to regret not killing her. Shikamaru kissed her hair. You did the right thing. If I wasn't so angry, I might agree with you. Anko, who had sat stunned from the moment Naruto started talking, sat forward. So it's a ceiling that stops us from telling others the truth, huh? Yeah. Only those with strong chakra would have been able to state the bare minimum. Naruto leant heavily into Shikamaru, clearly gaining purchase on her emotions around a fellow child of iron. The purple-haired woman grinned in a way that turned Shikamaru's stomach. Then release me, 'cause I want to tell every last thing about that bitch. Iruka-sensei looked between the two women, color draining from his face as he realized how bad it must be for Naruto to be filled with so much hatred and Anko to look so gleeful at the thought of admitting everything. With a satisfied smirk like Anko's, Naruto poked her in the forehead, chakra radiating from the tip of her finger. Anko took a deep breath, her eyes closed. When she opened them, she turned them on the Hokage. I've got one hell of a story for you. Instantly Naruto grabbed Shikamaru's and Iruka-sensei's arms, pulling them out of the tent, even as the older man protested that he had work to do. She ignored them as she marched them back to the tent Shikamaru had been working in. Throwing them both into chairs, she paced. I don't want either of you hearing the accounts. You don't need that stuff in your heads. All right, Shikamaru agreed, sending Iruka-sensei a look so that he nodded his head. We will do our best to stay oblivious, as long as you promise to not do anything rash. Okay? Slowly, Naruto took breaths, her body relaxing inch by inch. Finally, she was able to give Shikamaru a grateful smile. Yeah. As long as you remind me of who I am, I might be able to do that. Even if I have to wear earplugs whilst I do it, I will make sure this woman is punished for whatever she did, Iruka-sensei swore. I'll start by finding your historian friend and sending her to Lady Tsunade and getting a sealing team to find all the children of iron and breaking their gags, as you put it. He stood, pulling Naruto into a tight hug before looking between her and Shikamaru. You two just keep looking out for each other, okay? It'll make me worry less. When he left, Naruto dropped down into Shikamaru's lap, allowing him to wrap his arms around her waist and pulled her against his chest. Why do I feel like I'm standing on the edge of a cliff? Naruto sighed tiredly, dropping her head back onto Shikamaru's shoulder. 'Cause you're a drama queen? When Naruto just glared at him, he chuckled. It will be fine. You told Sakura the truth and that ended well. You've been honest with yourself and that has helped you. And this is just another thing that will work out for the better. Just remember, you proved that you could take your thirst for vengeance and turn it into a need for justice, not just for yourself but everyone else Haruma hurt. Only because you got sense into me, Naruto muttered, staring blankly at the canopy above. So? You needed help. Everyone does. But not everyone would have let someone speak sense to them in that moment. Just remember that. Shikamaru, Naruto breathed. Tell me you love me still, even after what I almost did. Please. Of course I still do. I love you, Naruto. Nothing has changed. Turning her head, Naruto gave him one of her feather-light kisses before curling into him, tears falling down her face and soaking his vest. Whether she cried from stress, the release of tension, or her nightmare childhood being brought into the light, he doubted even Naruto knew. All her could do was hug her, kissing her tears away as they fell. Chapter 60, Tests and Trials. He cracked an eye open as Naruto dropped into the bed. The sigh she gave was deep and weary. It made Shikamaru's heart give a painful thump. He had seen the blonde exhausted from battles, from loss, and from chakra depletion. However, this was different. There wasn't that relief that came after a hard-won fight, the broken atmosphere of loss, or that frustration and twitching that Naruto always had from lack of chakra. This time, it was as though Naruto's exhaustion ran straight to her bones. Draping an arm over Naruto's stomach, he pulled her to him, kissing her cheek. Slowly, as though her body was made of lead, the blonde turned to face him. She curled into him. Everything all right? He whispered into the night. Your dad and Uncle Inoichi were in charge of taking statements, Naruto stated. Uncle Inoichi was also in charge of going into the mind of Haruma as well. Since she had defenses in her mind, Uncle Inoichi used emotional triggers to shake them. He used me to shake them. He told her how I used the clan village alliance codes since she abused my clan's jutsu. It pissed her off and Uncle Inoichi used her emotional distraction to get into her head. Unfortunately, that means the memories he got into were the ones of me. He has spent the last week seeing what she did to me. Shikamaru let his breath out in a silent rush. Shit. How bad? Naruto dropped her eyes from his face. I'm not going to tell you how bad it got at the orphanage. That's not what I meant. Did he see it all or what? She shrugged. I didn't ask. Shikaka told me what he did. Uncle Inoichi can't look at me without looking guilty. I don't blame him for putting me in the orphanage. I blame Haruma for being a bitch. Why did he look? He should have asked someone else to do it. I think he wanted to know. I should have told him not to, but I was more preoccupied with stopping you and Iruka-sensei from hearing things you don't need to. I feel bad that I forgot about the fact that he would find things out. Am I a bad person for saying that I'm glad it wasn't Iruka-sensei? No, you're not a bad person, though it is surprising. Shikamaru rubbed Naruto's back, feeling her move closer to his warmth. Well, I don't actually remember being raised by Uncle Inoichi. He was always just this guy who popped up, made sure I was okay, stocked my cupboards if he found out I had not money, that sort of thing. I was about 5 when I asked the old man who he actually was to me and why he asked me to call him uncle. That's when the old man explained that he had ordered Uncle Inoichi to raise me, but when Aunt Momiji got sick, I was put in the orphanage. Something about knowing that I was originally a mission for him made me not able to connect him as family until I was older. But with Iruka-sensei, I could tell when I first saw him that he held that same fear that the rest of the village had for me. But instead of letting it blind him, he looked at me and saw a child and wanted to help me. He was the first person who actually had that hatred of the Nine-Tails but could still see me. When I found out the Nine-Tails had killed his parents, I gained more respect for him. He had every reason to hate me, and yet he went the opposite way. I guess I could just understand and appreciate that more than the delicate situation Uncle Inoichi was in at the time. When I got older, Uncle Inoichi and Aunt Momiji tried to reconnect with me, but I think it made them feel bad that I didn't really know them like they had hoped I would. Apparently before Danzo's attack they had planned to adopt me. That would have made you Ino's sister, Shikamaru whispered in a horrified voice, shuddering. Naruto covered her mouth to muffle her laughter. It could have been worse. There was a woman in the Nara clan who wanted to adopt me after I was born. She told me the other day. She was friends with my mum. If that had happened, I would have been raised a Nara. Shikamaru pulled a disgusted face. I would have grown up thinking you were related to me. That would have made this relationship very awkward, Naruto joked, stifling her laugh at Shikamaru's expression. In retaliation, he wrapped an arm tightly around her waist before rolling onto his back, dragging Naruto with him. She gave a surprised shriek that she cut short by burying her face in his shoulder. He chuckled silently at her pout. "Why are you still dressed?" he asked, noticing that Naruto was still in her day clothing. "Was too tired to change," Naruto shrugged, continuing to lie on him. Pushing up the back of her shirt, he smirked, "I could help you." "Pervert." "That's not a no," he pointed out before kissing her, making her swallow her reply. He frowned comically when Naruto jumped up. He watched as Naruto pulled one of her nightshirts out of his dresser. With her back to him, she stripped down, throwing the shirt over her head. She blushed when she turned and noticed Shikamaru had been unashamedly taking in every inch of skin she had shown. "You do know, with you keeping clothing in here, people will start to realize you sleep here," Shikamaru commented as Naruto slid into bed. "I think Ino already does." "Not surprising. You're meant to be sharing a room with her." "Do you want me to move back into that room?" Shikamaru snorted before moving to pin her under his body. "No." He kissed her, smothering her laughter. "And just so you know, if you are ever too tired to get changed, I'm okay with you coming to bed naked." "Oh, I'm so glad that you would put yourself in such a horrible situation just for my comfort." "As long as you're happy." He wanted to focus on kissing Naruto, his hands sliding up and down her leg, enjoying the feel of her skin. Unfortunately, something from earlier that day kept cropping up in his mind. He had wanted the answer earlier, but Naruto had been busy helping to compile evidence against Haruma. With a groan, he pulled back. "I hate my brain." "What did it do now?" "Instead of just enjoying being with you, it wants to ask you a question." Naruto looked up at him, her eyes shining with amusement. "Shikamaru's brain asked your question so Shikamaru and I can get back to what we were doing, or we can go to sleep. The other day someone mentioned that you were the last child of iron. Is it true? Why'd Haruma stop at you?" "Well, the thing people don't notice is that the orphanage would increase and decrease in waves. After a war, or something like the Nine-Tails attack, the orphanage would get in a bunch of new kids, but otherwise, it would only be maybe 5 within the year, and they would often be adopted by family friends shortly after. Varric lost his father in the Ninja War when he was a newborn, and his mother died shortly after that, never actually asked how. He was the youngest of the war orphans, then there wasn't really any new orphans until I was born, in which case I was the youngest, cause I was only like a minute old. There was a conflict with the Cloud Village when I was 5 that orphaned Yasu and the others in her group, and yeah, you can see the pattern of conflict with the orphanage. Too many children and not enough friends of the deceased parents left to adopt them. Yasu's group would have been children of iron if Haruma hadn't retired before they were old enough actually torment. Shikamaru looked at the way Naruto wouldn't meet his eye as she trailed off. He couldn't help but smirk at her. Did you have anything to do with her retirement? Sort of, maybe, absolutely. There was two things that made the end of the Iron of Children, and yes, I was a part of both of them. One of them was the reason I was kicked out of the orphanage at age 6. After I was kicked out, I was talking to Dai, his at the time girlfriend Fumiko, who's now his wife, and his sister Erika, who were all children of iron, and we got this idea into our heads at about 1 a.m. to get rid of the iron box. Next minute Dai had found 3 others and I showed them how to sneak into the orphanage, which I had been doing to see Yasu, and we stole the box and destroyed it. It was fun. Naruto gave a short laugh. We threw it off a cliff at the end and the thing practically popped when it hit the bottom. And Haruma didn't catch you? A guilty expression covered her face. She, wasn't there at the time. Which leads me to why I was kicked out, and why Haruma retired. I sort of broke her. At the confused look Shikamaru gave her, she sat up, picking her nails. You might not have seen, but Haruma needs a cane to get around, and she's on pain meds. See, on my birthday, the village always got worse with their treatment of me. I didn't know why when I was a kid, but Haruma knew about it, and every year she would make sure I was outside all day. She made me work in the garden, sent me on errands into the market district, even went so far as to give me money to get lunch from a shop for myself. Not that I ever managed to get that far, but still. So my 6th birthday was the same. I was beaten, stuff thrown at me, all that. And I wasn't allowed inside. But then Yasu started crying and I realized that no one had thought to look after her, cause normally I would. So I went inside to feed her, change her, whatever she needed, but Haruma found me in the nursery and tried to drag me outside. I pleaded with her to just let me look after Yasu first. What did she do? Shikamaru whispered. She told me how no one would be surprised if a child died because of me, that she didn't like the way I spoke back to her, and that I was stopping her from doing her job. I'm guessing she meant her job of getting me in the hands of Danzo. She covered Yasu's mouth and nose. She said that she wouldn't let go unless I attacked the old man. I had to make an attempt on his life or Yasu would die. I snapped and attacked her. She ended up in the hospital, but someone covered up what I had done. I found out a few months back that it was Ibiki and some other children of iron. They realized that Haruma had finally pushed someone too far, and they covered it up. Made a lie about a rogue ninja breaking in and trying to take the next generation or something. They were protecting me from retaliation for her humiliation. Haruma couldn't contradict the story when she woke up, cause it risked exposing what she had really been doing. Instead, she decided that she was too injured to look after children anymore and retired with a pension and the money that Children of Iron were still paying her. If she was retired, how could she threaten Yasu to keep you silent? I didn't know if the new Kara was like Haruma, and I knew not to underestimate Haruma. Even injured, she was deadly. She used to take the allowance I got off the old man after all. When I heard her, that was the first time I saw the monster that everyone kept talking about, and yet, I didn't care in that moment. Yasu had been in danger. I refused to be ashamed of what I did to protect her. Sitting up, Shikamaru gave her a small smile. You shouldn't be ashamed. She deserved what you did, and at least you ensured that others didn't have to suffer too. Naruto groaned, throwing herself down. But I know what I did is gonna come out, and I am not looking forward to that. I'm sure my haters will use it to harass me. Shikamaru snorted, lying down next to the woman. I wish them luck. My clan will make them regret it, and so will most of the village. Don't let it bother you. She gave him a small smile before sighing. I'm just looking forward to this all being over. It will be soon, he promised, hugging the blonde to him. In the meantime, Ino and Hinata were organizing a time to go and see Kurenai-sensei so we can give her the presents. I told them I would talk to you and see if tomorrow would be good. Putting her head on his chest, Naruto wrapped an arm around Shikamaru's waist. It'll be good to spend time with everyone. I haven't seen them all week. Smiling, Shikamaru started running his fingers through Naruto's hair. He felt the woman relax in his arms, finally letting her exhaustion turn into peaceful slumber. It was clear she had truly been depleted of energy by the fact that Shikamaru was the first to wake up out of them. Most mornings she was the first one awake. She continued lying in bed though until there was something to force her out into the waking world without Shikamaru. Knowing that they would have to get ready to see Kurenai-sensei soon, Shikamaru thought it was best to wake Naruto up. He went to kiss her only to have her turn her face into the pillow at the slightest brush of his lips. With a chuckle, he pulled Naruto closer. "I think I should feel insulted." "Sleepy," Naruto muttered. "So you don't want to spend time with our friends today?" Shikamaru teased, knowing to move away from Naruto. "Oh yeah." Her eyes snapped open and she threw the covers off of herself before she jumped out of bed. Turning to look at Shikamaru, Naruto put her hands on her hips. "Come on, get up." He couldn't help but roll his eyes. "Where do you get this energy? I need 3 cups of coffee in the morning to be anywhere near your level." "I'm solar-powered," Naruto joked as she gathered her clothing from the day before. "That would not surprise me." He sat up, rubbing sleep out of his eyes before moving over to Naruto. He kissed her, having the desire to never leave the room and instead spend the day simply with her in his arms. Reluctantly he pulled back. A large part of him regretted it when he noticed Naruto following him, clearly not wanting to break the kiss. He moved into her again, making her drop her clothing as he pressed her against the dresser. When they finally broke the kiss, he sucked in air, trying to dispel the fogginess to his mind. "Do we have to go out today?" "Not really," Naruto panted, giving him an amused smile. Shikamaru groaned. "But it's for Kurenai-sensei, so we should go." The blonde nodded in agreement before picking up her clothing. She gave Shikamaru a small kiss before walking out of his room. With a groan, Shikamaru pushed his hair out of his face, moving to make the bed and get ready for the day. A few hours after breakfast, Team 8 and the last member of Team 10 arrived at the Nara estate. "Kurenai-sensei is taking a nap at the moment, so we will go over in an hour," Hinata explained, putting the gift bag on the table. "I'm just glad the present was at your house," Shino commented, sitting down in an armchair. "It would have been a shame if all that hard work had been lost." Naruto laughed. "If I wasn't so bad at wrapping things, it would have still been at my apartment." The place was one of the first buildings hit. According to one of the other tenants, the place was smashed up before the push happens. She saw it when getting civilians to the tunnels. Naruto, Choji started, eyeing the woman closely as she perched on Shikamaru's knee. "You are aware we're going out soon, aren't you?" "Yeah, why?" "Well, it's just that you're dressed like a girl." Shikamaru looked at her, having not realized that she was wearing a halter neck and a skirt. He was so used to her not hiding who she was that he barely noticed anymore. Aunt Momiji looked up from her reading to smile at Naruto. The mother had gone to leave when the others had arrived, but they had insisted that she wasn't intruding. They could all tell from the hollowness to her cheeks and the sheen of sweat on her forehead that she was having one of her sickly days. "I think you look beautiful, dear," Aunt Momiji commented. Ino started fussing with the blanket draped over her mother's legs, making sure she was well covered. Aunt Momiji slapped lightly at her hands, clearly not enjoying her daughter's overprotectiveness. "Choji wasn't saying that, Mum. We just don't want Naruto to be uncomfortable when we walk through the village." Naruto sighed. She caught her reflection in the mirror on the wall and started to tug on a lock of hair. "Do you know why people thought I was a boy in the first place?" "Because of Huruma, right?" asked Kiba, a growl entering his voice. The blonde nodded. "She made me feel ashamed for being a girl, simply because she could. That was how she first." Naruto shot at Momiji a guilt-ridden look. "Broke me." "It's hard to believe anything could break you," Shino stated into the silence that followed Naruto's words. "When you are told that you are wrong simply for existing, it can get to you." Naruto continued to finger her hair before her eyes found the eldest Yamanaka again. "And Momiji, are you able to give me a haircut?" "I'm up for that, but I thought you were thinking about letting it grow out." "I want Huruma to see me how I wish to be seen," Naruto stated plainly before her hair started growing. Shikamaru blinked, wondering how she was doing it before realizing that Naruto was channeling her chakra into her hair. She had mentioned once that she grew her hair out 5 months into her journey with Jiraiya, but it was only now that Shikamaru realized she meant literally grew it out one day instead of simply stopped cutting it. It stopped growing once it was past her shoulder blades, bright blonde strands cascading down her back. Running her fingers through her hair, Naruto looked over her shoulder at Shikamaru, fear in her eyes as though she regretted her actions. He simply gave her a smile, twisting a lock around his finger. His silent support comforted her enough to follow Aunt Momiji into the bathroom so the woman could style Naruto's hair. It's going to take some getting used to, seeing Naruto as a female. I've always seen her as one of the guys, so whenever I see her looking girly I don't even notice it's her at first. Kiba flopped to the ground, making himself comfortable. It did take some adjusting, Ino admitted, staring at where her mother disappeared. I'm going to give them a hand. When Naruto reappeared 40 minutes later, Shikamaru had to pick up his jaw. It wasn't so much that he found her that beautiful, since he had always seen her as so, it was more the fact that there was no mistaking her for female. He tried to see the traits that had left him guessing all those years, but that seemed to be lost. Her fringe framed her eyes, highlighting her tan skin and vivid blue eyes, and her hair was less unruly with the extra weight the length gave, but still had a messy look to it that worked in Naruto's favor. How do I look? Naruto asked almost shyly, blushing as she looked at him. I'll tell you when my brain starts working again. His response caused her to laugh. None of their friends spoke until Naruto was situated on his lap again, him playing with the strands of her hair. You look beautiful, Naruto, Hinata gushed. I'm just glad that you're comfortable enough to be your real self. Choji smiled at her. Oh no, I'm shit scared that the moment I step out of the estate looking like this that I'll be attacked, Naruto admitted plainly. But I realize I need to move past that, something I can't do unless I test the waters. And you have us to protect you if something does happen, Shikamaru reminded, putting a comforting hand on Naruto's leg. He was rewarded with a smile and her moving into his side. So you two are together, right? Kiba asked blatantly. What gave it away? His words dripped with sarcasm as he pulled Naruto closer. Am I the only one who didn't know how much you liked me? Naruto asked. Yeah, pretty much. He kissed her when she pouted. Now we're going to have to see this. Kiba grunted when Naruto threw a pillow at his face. Ino re-entered the lounge room. My mum is kicking us out of the house. She's sick of you fussing over her? Naruto laughed. She's my mother, I'm allowed to worry. Ino picked up the present, leading the way to Kurenai-sensei's new apartment. I'm working on a possible cure, or at least a treatment, but I was hoping to look at the Nara medicine book, if that's okay, Shikamaru. Of course, anything for Aunt Momiji. Shikamaru took Naruto's hand when he noticed her steps slowing the closer they got to the gate. Everything will be fine, he whispered to her. He was right, though Naruto may not have agreed. Her look did cause a bit of a stir among the people who spotted them, but it wasn't aggressive. Many were surprised to see the rumors proven correct, and some even waved at Naruto, commenting that she looked nice. With every person who spoke, however, Naruto jumped, moving closer to Shikamaru's side. By the time they made it to Kurenai-sensei's apartment, Naruto had calmed some, though she still looked over her shoulder at every noise. See, no one wants to hurt you. Shikamaru kissed her cheek as Hinata knocked on the door. When Kurenai-sensei answered the door, Shikamaru was taken aback by the size of her stomach. He had seen her only 2 weeks before when he had helped moor her now meager belongings into her new apartment. Many from the Akamichi clan had given Kurenai-sensei second-hand furniture and baby items to replace what she had lost. After having to put furniture together for the woman, he was thankful when Captain Yamato came over and literally grew her a crib. However, it was still hard to believe that the woman he had known for so many years was about to become a mother. The thought always gave him a jab of pain, for his mind turned to Asuma-sensei. It's good to see you all, Kurenai-sensei commented as Hinata took over the task of making tea for them all. Shikamaru decided to not grumble that there was no coffee. I was surprised when Hinata told me this morning that you wanted to come over. You've all been so busy. Her eyes flickered over to Naruto. You look lovely, Naruto. How have you all been? Akamaru and I have been helping to move people into their new homes, Kiba said. Most people are being really understanding with any changes to the design of the houses, since it was hard to track down the right blueprints for everything. Is your apartment all right? It's not too cold, is it? The floor is level, right? Everything is great, Kiba, chuckled the woman. When the baby grows up a bit, I will have to find a new place, what with Shikamaru coming to live with me. But that won't be an issue for at least a year. Once I have a toddler and a teenager in the house, though, I'll need more space. I'm glad you're taking him in, Naruto commented. I would have, but my apartment was only one bedroom. I let him stay there while I was away, though. He had been sleeping on my couch for almost a month, so it made sense. I had wondered where he had been staying after Asuma. Kurenai-sensei trailed off, making them all thankful when Hinata walked into the room with a tray full of teacups and a pot. Naruto, how are you doing? The other senseis and I are worried. We don't like what we've been hearing about what happened to the children of iron, as you call yourselves. I have a few friends who have suffered from that woman, and hearing what little they say now that the seal has been removed turns my stomach. Alright, Naruto started slowly. It's uncomfortable having to tell people about what happened and watching their faces. I keep expecting someone to accuse me of lying, and since I don't have physical proof of what she did to me, that I won't be able to stop people from disbelieving me. And before you start on the fact that that will not happen, I know there is enough proof that I'm telling the truth, but I can't shake that feeling. I'm not the only one either. We've all spent so long keeping our secret that it just feels wrong to be speaking about it now. That woman is sick. Kurenai-sensei shook her head. My dad and I used to take supplies to the orphanage. It was a mission he always volunteered for. I'm glad that he never found out what was going on during those years. How was she even able to hide it so well? An Uzumaki jutsu that was ironically made for people suffering mental issues, like what Haruma caused. It was designed to help people who had suffered abuse and had either mental triggers or who had issues opening up about what they suffered. It was meant to create the perfect environment for them whilst going through therapy. From what old Granny was able to work out, Haruma was in charge of taking a number of seals that were all medically related. Apparently the Uzumaki clan had better medical jutsus than the village, since they have medical chakra. She made a copy of the jutsu and altered it for the uses she wanted. I could still recognize it though, which just pisses me off, even if it was the reason she was arrested. We actually still use some of the Uzumaki jutsus at the hospital, and apparently the Sealing Corp, Ino commented. I'm surprised that you were able to recognize it so easily though. Naruto shrugged nonchalantly, making Shikamaru wonder what was going through her mind. He knew she had been reading up on her clans since Eiji had given her information on them. However, there was something in her behavior that made Shikamaru wonder if there was more to it all. But all this should be wrapped up soon, so let's talk about something nicer. Naruto gestured awkwardly to the pregnant woman's stomach. How are you doing, with the belly? This caused Ino to snort. Why are you looking like she's about to explode? 'Cause I honestly think she might. Shikamaru laughed. Turns out no one actually told Naruto what a pregnant woman looks like. It was pretty funny when she first spotted Kurenai-sensei. Seriously? Kiba looked at Naruto in surprise, only to laugh. Well, Naruto started, looking embarrassed. I've never seen a pregnant woman before, and old Granny and Irika-sensei explained how children were made and where the exit was, but not that a woman looks like she ate a watermelon whole. This caused the group, minus Shino, to laugh. Shino, however, nodded. I can understand your surprise then. Thank you, Shino. Naruto elbowed Shikamaru, who was sniggering at her. You're all mean. Shikamaru hugged her to him, making sure to pin her arms so that she couldn't hit him again. When she gave him a scowl, he kissed her, making her roll her eyes. I'm doing well, though I have trouble putting shoes on, and if I drop something it's staying there until Konohamaru gets home. I'm also starting to panic because I feel unprepared for when the baby gets here. That I know about, Naruto said. Varik is better with all that stuff, but I still remember most of it from my time of looking after Yasu. I may have to take you up on that, Kurenai-sensei warned. Speaking of the baby, we have a present for you. Naruto taught us how to knit, so we made you something. Hinata handed the older woman the gift bag. Gleefully, Kurenai-sensei pulled out the knitted toy that looked like Asuma-sensei. That was made by Naruto, Choji explained. She made it smell like him too. This comment made Kurenai-sensei sniff it only to smile sadly at it. I know it's not the same, but I thought at least your child will have something of him. It won't lose the smell. How did you do it? Kurenai-sensei put the toy on her lap. A jutsu, Naruto shrugged, again with that nonchalant look on her face. Kurenai-sensei didn't question it, instead pulling out the blanket they made. The center had been done by Naruto, and therefore had the Sarutobi clan symbol in a nice green on a soft white background. The woman ran her fingers over the squares around the edge that had their initials embroidered into them. Thank you? Kurenai-sensei sniffled. I know the baby will love it. Shikamaru was glad that they had decided to take the day to see Kurenai-sensei. Naruto wasn't the only one feeling the horror of Hiruma's actions coming to light. The entire village shuddered in mortification upon realizing what they had been oblivious to. It was made worse by seeing how little the children of Iron reacted to the sympathy they started to receive. It wasn't so much that they didn't care that they were finally getting justice. On the contrary, they were eager to see Hiruma on trial and were making sure the village was too traumatized by what happened for it to ever be repeated. However, when someone tried to reach out to show their heartache at the news, they often blanked, choosing to stay silent. Shikamaru had noticed that Naruto had taken to simply walking off when people tried to talk to her about what she had actually suffered. Many of the Naras had found this fascinating and had taken to studying now-known children of Iron to try and discover why this was their behavior. The Naras who had taken to this study were given more material when Shikamaru, Naruto, and Ino returned to the estate. They found a group of Naras sitting stiffly around a large table that had been put in the courtyard. Over the surface were a number of scrolls. Shikamaru noticed that the typical Nara pale complexion was paler for those at the table. Uncle Inoichi was also sitting at the table, his head in his hands and his hair falling limply over his shoulders. Ino went to her father's side as Shikamaru asked his father what was going on. All these scrolls are children of Iron, who will not be at the trial, he admitted gravely, his eyes sweeping over the documents. 50 years, he added in a horrified whisper. For a week we've been told names that we've had to track down the reports on. Do you have Slice's name? Naruto asked, dropping down onto one of the seats, grabbing a water that was sitting in the center of the table before putting her feet up on the wooden surface. I think his real name was Jaku. He was good with knives. She gave a laugh. No prize for guessing how he offed himself. One of the Naras looked at a list of names before sighing as the others openly stared at Naruto in surprise. No, we don't. Great, another one to add to the list. Wait. Ino looked from her father, to Naruto who was casually drinking her drink, to Shikaku who looked as though he had aged a decade with that one more name. Are all these people dead? Naruto leaned over to look at the list before shrugging. Looks like it. And you don't have Waku on there either. If it helps, he was the one who hung himself in the orphanage when I was 5. Hiruma was not happy with that one. Naruto! Ino snapped. How can you be so cold? If Naruto hadn't turned her head away from Ino like she had with so many others, Shikamaru wouldn't have seen her roll her eyes. It seemed almost uncharacteristic of her. This caused an uncomfortable realization to form in the man's mind. Naruto, did you see some of these people die? No, the blonde mockingly gasped. Never. I also never heard people cry themselves to sleep, or seen people attempt to kill themselves. And I certainly wasn't the one to find Waku, the boy who was the one to look after me in the orphanage when I first got there and took multiple beatings for me because Hiruma targeted me so heavily. Scoffing, Naruto swung her feet off the table, standing. Are you all surprised that there are so many people who killed themselves? Hiruma made it a point of destroying the weaker ones. The ones she broke easier she kept targeting. So many couldn't handle the idea of leaving the orphanage and still being under Hiruma's control. Of course, many chose death over having to suffer that for who knows how many years. What a fucking shock! She stormed off, leaving a deafening silence behind. Shikamaru tried to think about what it must have been like to grow up with such a blood-stained background. Unfortunately for his insight, and fortunately for his sanity, he was unable to imagine it at all. He did, however, realize that perhaps everyone's curiosity and their desire to help the children of Iron heal through talking about it was not being appreciated by Hiruma's victims. Looking at the scrolls littering the table pointed to the clear fact that no one would ever truly be able to understand what 50 years' worth of orphans had suffered. Picking up one of the scrolls and skimming through, he noticed that the cause of death was marked accident, making him sigh, knowing that Haruma, and probably Danzo in extension, had covered up the signs of the abuse. The only real step the village could take to helping the group was Haruma's trial, something Naruto was waiting for. The Naras had backed off from observing the Children of Iron, having received the answer they had been looking for. At least as close to the answer as they could reach without having been through the same experience. For Naruto, she had shaken off her outburst rather easily, something that caused Shikamaru pause. He had asked her if she was alright when he had found her talking to Anko shortly after she had walked from the table. Huh! Oh yeah, Naruto rolled her eyes again, looking at Anko. The Naras are looking at the different suicides that Haruma caused. And they're expecting us to what? Cry at the mention of their names? When Shikamaru gave Anko a horrified look, Naruto explained. Suicides were common for us, Shikamaru. I told you that Haruma made sure to break the weak. What did you think I meant? I don't know what I thought. I guess I just thought that they were. He trailed off, realizing he had simply taken broken to mean, well, broken. He hadn't thought to question it. Naruto had referred to herself as broken before, so he had assumed it was similar for the most brutalized of the orphans. There have been so many people to leave the orphanage and to die, or to kill themselves in the orphanage. We eventually learn to harden our hearts to it, distance ourselves. This is our way of coping so that we don't add more scrolls to the pile. Naruto sighed. It's just one of those things you need to let drop, Shikamaru. I mourned Slice and Waku when they died, and then I moved on before I joined them. Shikamaru studied Naruto's face as he moved closer to the woman was sitting on a large slab of remaining rubble. Reaching out to play with a lock of the long blonde hair, he kissed her. If you're sure that you're alright, then I'll let it drop. He kissed her again, only to groan and pull back to glare at Anko when she started laughing at them. You two are adorable, she mockingly gushed. And you're drunk, Naruto retorted with a friendly scowl. Gotta ask, Shikamaru, Anko started, taking a swig from the alcohol bottle sitting beside her. Have you gotten further with Naruto than I have? Anko! Naruto yelped, her face going as red as Shikamaru's. I really didn't appreciate that you took my likeness and used it against Naruto. You're just mad that I felt Naruto's chest before you, Anko wiggled her eyebrows at him. Or have I? Seriously, you didn't answer me. We'll be leaving now, Shikamaru stated as Naruto jumped off her perch. She took his hand as they ignored Anko's laughing. I'll take that to a yes, the woman called out to their retreating backs, making the two blush darker. Why is she drinking anyway? She found out the trial is set for tomorrow. A lot of Children of Iron haven't actually seen Haruma since they finished paying her back, so a lot of them are a little scared. Obviously, I've had to deal with her my whole life, and when I became a ninja I stopped letting her scare me. Hell, I started to annoy her instead. Finding out about the Ninetales kinda freed me. I told her I knew about it, and that if I died the Ninetales would be freed and kill her. That wasn't technically true, but she didn't know that. Naruto gave a laugh, hugging into Shikamaru's side. Shikamaru laughed. You should tell the others how she would go red in the face in her crappy dressing gown as she had to watch you walk past her with your friends surrounding you. She might have been powerful once, but she's nothing now. I'll have to do that tomorrow before the trial. Naruto stopped their steps. But you're not going to be there. What? I told you at the start of all this that I didn't want you finding out what happened. Iruka-sensei isn't going to be there, and neither is Konohamaru. With a sigh, he nodded. All right. I won't go if you don't want me to. Thank you. Naruto smiled at him before leading them back to the estate. There was still Naras sitting around the table in the courtyard, staring gloomily at the scrolls. Swallowing the bile building in his throat, Shikamaru went with Naruto into the house. He regretted agreeing to not going to the trial when he was left waiting for Naruto to return. Anko, Dai, two women that Shikamaru assumed were Dai's wife and sister, and Varrick had came to the estate to get Naruto, finding her sitting on the porch steps, Shikamaru sitting in front of her as she pulled his hair into its half-up do. Dai had made a comment about Naruto's long, beautiful hair that she had put into a plait coming over her shoulder. She had said goodbye to Shikamaru with a small kiss before leaving for the trial. He had known that his father and Uncle Inoichi would have to stay after the trial to fill out the paperwork of the verdict. After all, everyone was still spread thin with duties. After 5 hours, Shikamaru wasn't the only one started to fidget waiting to hear what had happened. Ino and Choji both kept shooting the door looks whilst Iruka-sensei, who had come over 3 hours before to see Naruto, only paced back and forth in the living room as he waited. Iruka-sensei, Shikamaru started. You have sensory chakra, right? The man stopped pacing, looking at his ex-student. Well, yes, why? Can you locate Naruto? The trial should be over by now and I'm starting to worry. Iruka-sensei led them to the Uchiha estate where they heard raised voices. The two men hurried through the gate, only to realize that the voices were not negative. On the contrary, there was laughter puncturing through the air. They found a large group of people sitting around a fire pit that had, until recently, been disused. They all varied in age, with the only one younger than Naruto being a 10-year-old girl who was sitting on the blonde's knee. There was a faint smell of alcohol in the air. When Naruto spotted them, she raised a bottle in her hand as a gesture of greeting, her other hand sitting on the girl's stomach to secure her on Naruto's knee. Hey, what are you guys doing here? Naruto asked. She hooked a finger in the collar of Shikamaru's shirt, pulling him down for a kiss. EW, the girl squirmed only to squeal when Naruto bounced her gently. We were worried about what happened, Iruka-sensei admitted, smiling at the little girl. You didn't come back after the trial. The word trial made a cheer break out through the crowd, even though most had clearly not been listening before that one word. Lady Tsunade is amazing, one of the drunker people in the crowd announced. The group cheered, including Naruto and the girl on her lap. I'm guessing that means it went well, Shikamaru said, pulling a chair up to sit beside Naruto. The evil woman can't hurt me now, the girl commented, her mousy brown curls bounced. No, she can't, Naruto agreed. Yasu, this is Shikamaru, and Iruka-sensei. I know Iruka-sensei, she reminded, rolling her eyes. Hi, sir. Hello, Yasu, it's nice to see you again. Iruka-sensei smiled at the girl as he sat down, avoiding Anko's hand when she tried to pinch his behind. He gave her a mocking scold before accepting a drink off Ibiki. What happened today? Well, Haruma tried to argue that she had only been doing the job that Danzo gave her, and that she hadn't really wanted to hurt children. However, old Granny pointed out that Haruma had been given orders from the second Hokage to raise and nurture the younger generation. Uncle Inoichi also testified that the stuff he got from her mind showed that she was hardly just following orders. Sorry I didn't come home. Anko dragged me here to celebrate with the others. So is she dead or something? Shikamaru asked slowly, having no idea what punishment would even be suitable for someone who horrid. No, she's alive. Naruto took a swig of her drink. Trust me, we all wanted her dead, but what old Granny did was much better. She decided that Haruma was to be sentenced to a cell where the only people she'll see will be the people who give her meals 3 times a day. Naruto laughed. She's been sentenced to living her life alone with everyone knowing what she's done. She will never be seen as a hero of the village. The thing she held over us, reminded us constantly as a reason for why no one would believe us, has been stripped from her. She's stuck forever in an iron box. Honestly couldn't think of anything better, Anko cackled. So now we're celebrating. Naruto grinned. She accepted a new drink of a woman not much older than herself, thanking her by name. Shikamaru looked around, realizing that there were a number of people around the same age as Naruto. These were the people that she would have been in the orphanage with and suffered with. The uncomfortable question of how many hadn't made it to this moment crossed his mind. He shook it off, knowing that such a thought wasn't what these people needed. Instead, he let the relief and joy of the people around him fill him. He smiled at Naruto, who was laughing at an inappropriate joke that one of the others had cracked. Anyone who glanced at the Children of Iron would think that they were a carefree, if slightly intoxicated group. However, when Shikamaru looked closely, he could see the same things he had noticed with Naruto throughout the years. Their smiles didn't always reach their eyes, their shoulders were tense as though expecting an attack, and some of the things they said weren't quite right, having grown up socially different. One could only hope that their joyous attitude would one day become naturally. Until then, Shikamaru and Iruka-sensei were able to see what Naruto was like when around those who had an insight into her past that they would never have. Chapter 61 Truth. Warning! There is some more adult content than usual in this chapter, such as swearing and mention of some not-so-pleasant stuff. I promise this stuff won't litter the following chapters, but if you're uncomfortable with those sorts of things, you have been warned. It took him a moment after waking up to remember where he was. He had stayed up until late with Naruto and the Children of Iron before he had found himself too exhausted to make it back to the Nara estate. He had ended up finding a room that residents had recently vacated in favor of their new homes. Shikamaru had missed Naruto's presence beside him, though. He wasn't even sure she had been to bed. However, shortly after he had woken up, he spotted Naruto walking into a room with a tray. "Good birthday," Naruto said with a smile, putting the tray down on the low nightstand next to the bed. "Don't worry, Dai cooked, but I did help." Shikamaru chose to not comment on her getting the saying wrong and instead looked at the omelette. "You did the carrot smiley face, didn't you?" "Yeah." Naruto watched as Shikamaru sat up but didn't reach for the tray. "Are you not going to eat it?" "Not right now." He pulled Naruto down onto the bed. He pressed her into the mattress, kissing her. There was something freeing about not being at home. Even though Shikamaru would be surprised if his family and Ino's family hadn't realized that Naruto slept in his room, the two still tried to minimize how likely it was that someone in the house would find her sleeping in his bed. They had also had to limit the amount of times they had been in one of their bedrooms alone. It wasn't by choice, but for the fact that Uncle Inoichi had taken to randomly coming into the room as though looking for something, or needing an answer to a simple question. What he was doing was transparent and awkward, so the couple had taken to leaving the house and finding time to be together by the river or in the Nara forest. They had somewhat claimed the secluded clearing they had had their first dating in as their personal clearing. Even though they had found ways to have privacy, it was refreshing to be able to lie in bed for however long they wanted without interruptions. He was able to enjoy the look of Naruto's hair sprayed out over the pillow, the feel of her increased heartbeat as he kissed her neck, and the sound of her shuddered breath as Shikamaru's hand slid up her orange t-shirt. He was so focused on the beautiful woman beneath him that if Anko had knocked before barging into the room, he didn't hear it, and apparently neither did Naruto. She jumped as much as Shikamaru did, yanking her shirt back into place as Shikamaru looked over his shoulder at the jonin in surprise. "Whoops," giggled the woman, a whiff of sake coming from her. "Did I interrupt something?" Shikamaru looked at Naruto, his face turning red. The blonde woman raised herself up onto her elbows, glaring at her drinking friend. "Anko, how are you still drinking?" The jonin winced. She walked deeper into the room, dropping onto the bed. "'Cause when I stop, I'm going to have to face stuff I've buried so deep I could almost convince myself that they didn't happen. I'm glad the evil bitch is locked up, but if I can be drunk for 2 days, I'm not going to complain." "It hasn't been 2 days, Anko. The trial was midday yesterday and went for a few hours," Shikamaru reminded, putting the tray with his omelette on his lap. "Oh, she was already a bit drunk at the trial," Naruto informed him casually as she sat up. "Not so drunk that I won't remember her face when she was told the verdict, and the fact that you beat the shit out of her at one point." Anko cackled. "There you are," Genma declared, walking into the room. "Iruka suggested I come get you." He looked at Shikamaru, who hadn't put a shirt on yet, and Naruto, whose orange shirt sat snugly on her torso. "Nice chest, the both of you." "Genma, it's too early for your perverted behavior." Naruto rolled her eyes before stifling a yawn. "But not Shikamaru's?" Anko asked gleefully, only to yelp when the blonde nearly kicked her off the bed. "Did I miss something kinky?" Genma questioned, wiggling his eyebrows suggestively. The couple decided to ignore him, and instead Naruto told Anko how the village had set up a section in the hospital for Children of Iron to get support for any mental health issues they might have. Anko absently nodded, clearly trying to think it over in her alcohol-addled mind. "You know, I think Kuruma is actually more evil than Orochimaru." Her statement caused Shikamaru to pause mid-bite of his food, wondering how she knew the sannin. I know he experimented on me and did horrible things, but I never got the impression that he was doing those things cause he got a kick out of it. He just wanted to see how far he could push the human body, learn more about chakra and stuff. It's not good, but Haruma seriously seemed to enjoy hurting us. Orochimaru just thought that the ends justified the horrific means. I don't think he was capable of actually feeling disgusted or pleased by our pain, just the results of his research. At least they are both either dead or locked up, Genma commented before looking at Shikamaru's almost empty plate. Okay, if Naruto gives you breakfast in bed every morning, I really regret my rule of never dating someone 10 years younger than me. You had no chance with me anyway, Naruto taunted. And it's Shikamaru's birthday. So? Anko asked, making Naruto look at her. Although he couldn't see her face, Shikamaru assumed that Naruto was giving Anko some sort of look. Oh, right, Good birthday, Naruto whispered. Good birthday, Shikamaru. Genma snorted, making Naruto ask him what was funny. He seemed to realize that Naruto, and extension Anko, didn't understand that they had said the phrase wrong because they may have never even heard it said. Oh, nothing, just lamenting my lack of breakfast in bed and a hot blonde. Come on, Anko, you should get some rest. Fine, sighed the other jonin, getting unsteadily to her feet. I am aware that you probably haven't celebrated a birthday, Shikamaru stated, putting the tray back on the nightstand. The blonde turned to look at him. What gave it away? Logic mostly. You've shown a lack of care for birthdays in the past, and the phrase is happy birthday, not good birthday. Naruto dropped her head with a humor-filled sigh. After a moment her head snapped back up. Wait, that makes no sense. If you're having a party, you don't hope for a happy party. You hope for a good party. If it's good, people will be happy anyways. I guess it doesn't make sense. So you can just say good birthday if you want. I won't mind. He reached out, grabbing Naruto's hand and pulling her into his lap. He started peppering her neck with kisses, nipping at the flesh when she went to move out of his hold. Shikamaru, Naruto groaned, which just encouraged him to do it again. I sent a clone to the estate last night, and told them we'd be home early today. With a heavy sigh, Shikamaru reluctantly let her go. His selflessness was rewarded with a smile and a deep kiss from a now standing Naruto. It was wise that Naruto did this after she had gotten off Shikamaru's lap, because he was certain he wouldn't have let her go if she hadn't. They took Shikamaru's breakfast tray to the kitchen to be washed before they headed off to the Nara estate. Upon entering the courtyard to get to his house, he realized that Naruto had tricked him. Happy birthday, cheered his family members and friends that were gathered in the courtyard. There were decorations hung up and a banner that said Happy Birthday Shikamaru and Ino. There were also tables laid out with snacks, drinks, and presents. The table with his name hanging from it clearly had only presents from him. You tricked me, Shikamaru whispered into Naruto's ear. Only for the best reason. Naruto smiled at him, pulling him towards the group. We were going to do 2 separate parties for you and Ino, but people are so busy still with fixing the village that it wasn't possible. That's fine, I'm not a big fan of parties, especially when I'm the center of attention, so I like sharing with Ino. She's an attention hog. Hey! snapped said woman when they stopped in front of her and Choji. The bigger man laughed into his fist. Don't deny it! Shikamaru taunted. Goo, happy birthday, Ino, for tomorrow. Oh, I have to get your presents out of my room. She gave Shikamaru a quick kiss on the cheek before darting off. When she says her room, does she mean my room or yours? Ino asked with a grin. What? Choji looked from one teammate to the other, looking as though he was debating about shielding his eyes. Ino laughed at Shikamaru, looking around sharply to make sure no one was overhearing them. Don't worry. None of the adults know. I told them that Naruto had been having nightmares and often wanders into your room early in the morning to get a few more hours sleep. She honestly has told me that sleeping next to you helps get rid of the nightmares she was plagued with after that asshole tried to break in here and hurt her, so I'm not really lying. I'm just going to pretend that I didn't hear that you and Naruto are sharing a bed, Choji declared. Ino patted the man on the shoulder. You do that. Naruto appeared beside them again, holding 2 parcels. I don't really know how the present thing works. Sasuke got me a cake once, but Aunt Momiji was making the cake, so I just found you both something I thought you'd like. I hope that's okay. That's actually how presents work, Ino explained. Awesome, I got one right. Naruto handed Shikamaru and Ino one of the parcels each. Ino's present was lumpy and looked rather light whilst Shikamaru's was more boxy, even if poorly wrapped, and heavy. The man chose to not tell Naruto that with their birthday they often opened the presents at the end of the party so that they could mingle for the entire time their guests were there. Shikamaru had always hated that rule since he wasn't particularly social, and was always highly curious as to what he had received. He let Ino unwrap her present first, revealing a soft, light blue, knitted sweater. The blonde instantly smiled at it. This is beautiful, Naruto. Did you make it? She hugged the other woman when she nodded. Thank you. I'm glad you like it. Seconds later, Shikamaru ripped the paper off his present, not caring that he made a mess. He ignored the scoff Ino gave. When he saw what the heavy object was, he found himself stunned. It was a gray marble shoji board with white and black marble squares, and he knew that the tiles in the little drawer in the side were all carved from white and black marble. He had seen the shoji board once before and had instantly wished he had one. His was old with most of the tiles chipped, and some of the symbols were almost faded to the point of being unrecognizable. However, not once, even as he had held the board the first time, did he think it would be his one day. Naruto, this was Lord Jiraiya's. I know. She smiled at him. I noticed that yours needed replacing and I want you to have this one. Pervy Sage used to play it all the time. He tried to teach me once, but I refused to let him. I think it will be put to better use with you. Making sure the shoji board was secure under one arm, Shikamaru wrapped an arm around Naruto's waist, kissing her. You two need to stop doing that in front of me, Ino exclaimed, which they ignored. I think they're sweet, Choji replied. When they pulled apart, Naruto decided to drag them off to find their other friends. For the most part, Shikamaru enjoyed the party. His parents, who had been busy and stressed since Pain's attack, were relaxing for the first time in close to 2 months. It was good to see his mother laughing at some joke that his father had told, and the two of them taking the moment to simply enjoy being with each other. It was moments like that, when his mother would laugh to the point that she would hiccup and then blush in embarrassment only for Shikaku to smile at her lovingly, that showed Shikamaru why his parents were together. For him personally, he spent the day with his friends, his 2 cousins, Eiji and Naruto. Shikamaru was finding that the more time he spent with Eiji, the more he was glad that he allowed him to become a Nara. The blue-haired man took to teasing Ryota's poor attempts to flirt with Hinata, with Naruto joining in. The blonde herself was sitting on Shikamaru's knee, leaning back against his chest with his arms wrapped around her waist. As much as he kicked himself for taking so long to tell Naruto his feelings, it was simple moments like this that stopped him from lamenting too hard. If he had told her earlier, they might not have been as close and may not have even lasted a week. There would never be a way for him to know, and there was no reason to ponder since at least he was with Naruto now. His and Ino's families kept apologizing for what they classed as subpar gifts. It was hardly a surprise that their families had scrambled to find presents for their birthdays since shops and commerce were not fully up and running again. There were some places such as Aunt Momiji's flower shop and Hideo Nara's jewelry store, since he made the jewelry in his workshop on the estate, that were getting minor business. Truthfully, Shikamaru was just thankful to have a chance to relax with Naruto after the previous week. And he could tell that Ino couldn't care less about what she received either, and was just happy to spend time with her family. It was this that helped to loosen the tension that Shikamaru had been carrying with him. Perhaps it was this reprieve that had led to him reacting the way he did to a mission he had been given 3 days later. He was yet again helping with food distribution, since he already knew what he was doing. The woman who was giving out the orders instructed Shikamaru to take food to the prisoners in the jail just outside the village. The man who was to help him organize the meals for the prisoners grabbed one side of the food crate whilst Shikamaru took the other. The two of them filled trays with the correct portions of food for each prisoner before putting the trays onto 2 separate trolleys. I'll take the east side of the prison and you can take the west? Shikamaru suggested, getting a nod off the man. He had yet to hear his companion utter a word and didn't even know his name. He honestly didn't mind though, and instead started pushing his trolley down the first corridor on the east. For the most part the prisoners ignored him, often leaving their meals on the bench connected to the delivery slot until after he had walked off. The lack of interaction with the prisoners meant that he was finishing his task a lot quicker than he expected. Before long he was on his last corridor that housed some of the worst criminals. He was getting the tray out for the last prisoner when he heard a raspy laugh. When he straightened up he spied the figure sitting on the threadbare blanket half in shadow. He nearly dropped the food tray when he realized who he was looking at. He had only seen her twice before, and with everything he heard about her he had built her up to be a dominating, terrifying woman in memory. But she wasn't. She was short, rather willowy, with loose, wrinkly skin. Her hair was the color of ash, and one of her eyes had a glassy, mildly milky look to it. As she grinned sadistically at Shikamaru he could see cracked teeth. "Taking time away from screwing your bitch to feed us?" Haruma taunted. Shikamaru rolled his eyes as he picked up the pitcher of water, filling a cup to sit on the tray. He felt his shoulders tense as Haruma limped from the bed, closer to the bars of the cell door. "You see that square of sunlight," she said, pointing to a patch of artificial light that was around half a meter across on her cell floor. "The box I used to shove your bitch in was about that size. Maybe smaller. I left her in there for 3 days once." He turned his back to the woman, pretending to busy himself with fixing something on the tray. He had to remind himself that he knew what she was doing. All the cells were covered in chakra-repressing stone. She was powerless. She was powerless, and the only power she could get was what he gave her. "I don't know why the bitch is complaining about the box though. You'd think he would be crying over when I used to cut ribbons from his flesh." Turning sharply, Shikamaru tried to see a glimmer of a lie on the aged face in front of him. Instead she grinned at him. "The bitch didn't tell you about that one, did he? I'm not surprised. Who wants to be reminded they are with a monster? The freak grew his skin back overnight every time. Even when I tried burning his skin off, the monster healed himself. Though, I will admit it was fun to slice into him so often. The bitch would try to not scream when I had him pinned. Maybe you should try when you're next screwing him." Shikamaru picked up her tray, taking the cup of water off. He slid the tray through the grate, giving it a sharp push at the last minute, sending the food tumbling to the ground. Then, whilst looking Haruma in the face, he turned the cup up, letting the water pour out. He had to remind himself that he knew what she was trying to do and that he would never give in. He filled the cup again, taking a long drink from it before putting it on the trolley. He went to leave, but Haruma's next words caused him to stop mid-step. "How is your mother handling the loss of her firstborn?" "I am her firstborn," Shikamaru said, glaring at the old woman. A cackle came from the old crone in the cell. Haruma pressed her aged face against the bars. "You weren't meant to be. See, your mother was on her way to spewing out another wretched thing like you when Danzo sent someone after her. The jutsu I used on the little sluts in the orphanage all the time. It destroys their uterus and kills the little bastard inside. Sometimes I even did the world a mercy and stopped the chances of a little bastard being created before they left my care. I used the jutsu on your bitch a few times. I wanted to make sure he had no chance of spewing out little monsters when he was older. Seeing you, I know I did the right thing." Shikamaru reached in, grabbing a hold of Haruma's shirt. He pulled her closer to the metal bars until they were pressing painfully into her skin. "I know what you're trying to do. You can say all the lies that you want, but I'm not opening the door and giving you a chance to get out. I don't need to." He pushed her away, keeping a grasp on her shirt so he could sharply pull her back, slamming her into the bars. He let her go as the sound of the impact rang through the corridor. With a mark of satisfaction he watched her fall to the ground, blood running from her nose and lip and an angry red bruise on her forehead. "You may be a horrible person, but you're not a smart one." Leaving her to lie on top of the remains of her lunch, he pushed the trolley back towards the exit where his silent companion was moving the food storages into the guard building. Shikamaru asked if the man could finish on his own before he marched off to the Nara estate. He wasn't sure who he was looking for as his eyes roamed the people in the estate. When his eyes landed on his uncle Inoichi, who was talking to Eiji, he instantly made his way over to the men. Both were showing signs of stress and premature aging. The young Eiji had bags under his eyes and lines had appeared around his mouth. They hadn't been there before he had been ordered to examine some of the children of Iron before the trial. Uncle Inoichi was the most obvious. He had the same bags as Eiji, but his long blonde hair was showing signs of graying that had not been there only a few months before, and since the reveal of the children of Iron there had been deep lines etched into his face at the corner of his eyes and around his mouth. Whenever Shikamaru looked at him he had a sickening realization about how old Uncle Inoichi, and in connection his own father, were. It made him question if his father's desire to retire soon was really because he thought Shikamaru was ready to take over his position, or if there was something he wasn't saying. "I need to talk to you too, now." Shikamaru turned sharply, marching into his house, making the men follow him. He went straight into his father's office, giving Eiji a look so that the blue-haired man would close the door. "I need you both to answer questions I have about my mother and Naruto, honestly. If those questions conflict with privileged information between healer and patient I won't answer," Eiji warned. Shikamaru just gave him a nod before turning to Uncle Inoichi to get the simplest answer. "Was my mother pregnant when she was attacked?" His uncle blinked in surprise. "No. Many in the village thought she might have been because of a string of bad luck involving getting food poisoning, then getting a stomach bug that everyone mistook for morning sickness. She was sick for almost a month." "Who mentioned that rumor to you?" "Haruma. I had hoped that she had lied about that, and therefore I could believe she had lied about everything else. But she probably thought she was telling the truth." He took a deep sigh that felt like it rattled his very bones. "One of you tell me, was Naruto skinned and burned on multiple occasions? And was the same jutsu that was used on my mother used on Naruto?" "That was before I came to the village, but Naruto doesn't have scarring," Eiji pointed out, shifting from one foot to the other. "Haruma did do it." Uncle Inoichi sunk into a chair. "The one who hung himself, Waku, was an Uzumaki orphan and took it upon himself to help the others heal by using his Uzumaki healing chakra. With Naruto this worked a lot better because she has the 9 tails and Uzumaki chakra as well. Naruto told me before the trial. When I saw the jutsu being used on Naruto in Haruma's memory I had Lady Tsunade run a check on Naruto's health, since that jutsu used once can cause more issues than just infertility. It looks like the 9 tails healed her after every time the jutsu was used, probably to help weaken the seal holding him and Naruto. But there is scarring, so Lady Tsunade doesn't know if Naruto is, well, it's possible the 9 tails saw benefits in keeping Naruto infertile since there are so few Uzumakis left. Perhaps only 1 or 2 now, counting Naruto, and we don't even have a clue where to find other survivors if they exist." Shikamaru leaned heavily against the large desk behind him. Running a hand roughly down his face as he took deep breaths, the man started to feel enclosed and like having this discussion in an office was a bad idea. He marched past the 2 men, throwing open the door. "Shikamaru," Uncle Inoichi started, following after the Nara heir. "Why did you go speak with Haruma?" "I didn't," he snapped, turning to glare at the blonde man. "I was on food duty when she started talking about how she used to cut strips of skin off Naruto, or burn her, and how my mother was pregnant when that jutsu was used on her." "Shikamaru," Eiji cut in, but the dark-haired man ignored him. "She was trying to get me to open the cell to attack her. If I didn't know what she was doing I might have. The way she talked about using the jutsu on Naruto and other girls she either wanted to make infertile or abort their pregnancies sickened him." "Stop!" Shikamaru halted, his eyes widening as he turned to look at the one who had roared the word. Naruto stood at the end of the hallway, her eyes hard before they softened as she turned them onto a very pale Anko. "Anko." The usually rough, brash woman gave a weak chuckle. "So you too, Naruto. That bitch said she was doing the world a service." She scanned Naruto before her eyes flickered to Shikamaru for a moment. "But you're a Jinchuriki, so Naro over there can probably get a brat when he wants." Naruto barely blinked at the spite in Anko's voice. "If it helps, I blinded her in one eye." That caused the woman to give a wet laugh before she shook her head. "I'm going to head off. But thanks for the knowledge that one of us got some payback." The blonde woman looked at Uncle Inoichi and Eiji, jerking her head at Anko's retreating back. Show her out, will you? The two men scrambled off before Naruto turned to Shikamaru. I told you I didn't want you to find out anything that Haruma did. It wasn't on purpose, I was doing my mission, but how could you not tell me that you were skinned? And that Haruma tried to make you infertile. I know my mum feels pain still from that jutsu. I can only imagine how brutal it was. I didn't want you to know, Naruto snapped. And as for the jutsu, I did tell you all that I had never thought of kids. Now you know why. You should have plugged your ears when you saw Haruma. What happened was none of your business. Like hell it isn't. Shikamaru didn't realize he was raising his voice to match Naruto's, but if he had he wouldn't have truly cared. I'm your boyfriend. Eventually what happened to you will affect our lives in some way. Unless you plan for us to break up. Of course not. I just don't see why you need to know. All it will do is make you upset. Why wouldn't I be upset when finding out that my girlfriend knows what it feels like being skinned? And the one who healed you was the guy who hung himself. You think I don't know that? I was the one who found him. I was the one who had to cut him down. You have had a good life. Why do you want to know about every detail of my crappy one? I don't want to know about every detail. I just think I should know the basics. So you went to Haruma for that? Naruto threw her hands up in frustration. I can't talk about this anymore. I need air. Shikamaru let her walk away. He knew that yelling at each other was going to do little more than make them angrier, and truthfully he didn't actually want to discuss what he had found out from Haruma. Walking to his room, Shikamaru collapsed onto his bed. He had let Haruma get into his head, something that he knew wasn't wise. But he had had issue with Naruto wanting to keep him in the dark. He had wanted to do what was best for Naruto and whatever would help her, but honestly he didn't think being oblivious to trauma Naruto had experienced was possible if he truly wanted to spend the rest of his life with her. He spent 10 minutes trying to calm down and thinking that Naruto was being irrational before a realization came to his mind. Naruto had been crying as she yelled at him. On top of that, she had lied to him and their friends when she had told them that Haruma had not ever physically hurt her. She had added the line when Choji and Hinata had pulled a horrified look at hearing about Haruma forcing Naruto to see herself as a boy. He stopped and thought of reasons why Naruto might have wanted to keep everything a secret besides trying to protect him from the disturbing information. It was this that allowed him to reach the depressing acknowledgement. Naruto wasn't just trying to protect him, she was trying to protect herself from the pain of having to tell him what happened. Even in what she was writing for the historian there was a detachment and plainness to her words, like someone explaining that 1 + 1 did indeed equal 2. But telling those she cared about, verbally and in person, was different. She would have to answer questions, and watch their faces as they registered what she had suffered. Shikamaru ran a hand through his hair as he stood up to go find his girlfriend. He was able to eventually find her by the riverside where she used to train with Lord Jiraiya. Her knees were drawn up to her chest with her arms crossed on top of them. She had her head on her arms as her shoulders shook from tears. She stilled when Shikamaru sat next to her, but instead of saying anything he pulled her close, rubbing her back calmingly. When her tears had subsided he kissed the top of her head. I'm sorry I yelled at you. I'm sorry too. I sort of get why you wanted to keep me oblivious, but it's not possible. But I think we can come to a compromise. Oh? Naruto looked up, rubbing her tears away roughly. When something comes up that affects you or our relationship that has to do with what you went through, you have to tell me how it affects you and the minimum of what happened so that I can help you the best I can. No details needed. And I will assure that I am never on prison duty again, so I never see Haruma again. What kind of moments will I have to tell you things? Well, instead of getting the villagers from the catacombs, you should have told me that you were claustrophobic and why. Naruto nodded before she started picking at her nails. And the fertility thing. Some of the clan members have made jokes about our future, so I have thought about telling you. But the Nine Tails has insinuated that he's left me affected in that regard. I just don't get any of the other side effects of the jutsu. Obviously that is something that would cause us an issue in the future. Shikamaru shrugged. It's not great in the fact that you are hurt, but it doesn't affect the two of us. It doesn't change how I feel. It will when you're older and needing an heir. I have 2 cousins, one of their children can be the heir. He gave her a genuine, small smile. I promise that I'm okay with it. Do you think my dad thought about leaving my mum over that same issue? Of course not. So why would it even cross my mind to do it to you? And you never know, the Ninetales might be lying, or you might be lucky like my mother. She shouldn't have been able to have me. But we've got a fair few years before we have to think about that stuff. Your clan, though? We just won't tell them. It's none of their business, and most of them won't care anyway. Shikamaru twisted a lock of Naruto's blonde hair around his finger. Do you forgive me for earlier? Naruto kissed him. I do. Though you should apologize to Anko when you see her. I didn't think she handled hearing someone else talking about what we went through. And I promise I'll try to open up to you about the stuff in my past when it's necessary. He sighed as he nodded. I'll talk to her after this. I just wanted to make sure that we were okay. Naruto leant into him, breathing him in as he pulled her into a tight hug. Shikamaru was thankful that Naruto and he were able to sort out their fight, but the argument had left an uncomfortable feeling in the pit of his stomach that he knew would take some time to shake off. Shikamaru! 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 Ow, what you crazy woman! He rubbed his arm where Ino had pinched him. Glaring at the blonde, he watched her huff. Will you stop staring at Naruto? I'm trying to talk to you. Shikamaru pretended to contemplate Ino's request before shaking his head. Nope. More fun to stare. He turned his gaze back to Naruto, who was in the courtyard talking to Ryota and Hinata. She was wearing the blue dress that caused Shikamaru to forget what he was thinking. The dress sat snug at Naruto's chest but hung loose underneath that, with a satin ribbon tied under her breasts. He had discovered that the dress's effects were worse with Naruto's bright blonde hair falling around her shoulders. He honestly didn't know why Ino expected him to listen to whatever she had been saying when he could instead watch Naruto, who was laughing with her friends. Unfortunately, his teammate was demanding attention. She hit his arm again. Shikamaru, I was trying to talk to you about the upcoming war. Ino hissed, shooting Naruto a look as though to make sure she was still out of earshot. Ino uncrossed her legs, hanging them over the edge of the porch. Do you really think we're going to be able to keep it from Naruto? Honestly, she's sharper than she lets on, but if I think Lady Tsunade knows that, she will probably send Naruto to the location the Raikage has determined under the pretext of a mission or something. But I don't think it will stop Naruto for long. We will have to find out how they extract the tailed beasts and put a stop to it before she joins the war. I suppose at least we have a backup plan. Ino gave a small smile. Dad and I have asked Mum to stay here when we leave. Even if our house is finished whilst we're fighting, she's going to stay here. Is that okay? Of course. You know your mother is always welcome here. And having to move back into your house by herself would be a bit much. I'll let Eri know. She's looking after the clan when we all move out. Shikamaru looked back across the courtyard, this time watching his female cousin as she moved around the estate. Eri is trained, why isn't she fighting? Ino asked with a confused frown in the direction of the older woman. She informed us yesterday that she's pregnant. So she's been taken off active missions altogether, and since Ryota is a ninja and will be fighting with us, it's helpful that Eri will be staying here. I'll make sure she looks after your mom, and you know the clan won't mind having her around for longer. He smiled at Naruto when she looked over at him, and waved. We should stop talking about the war in case Naruto comes over. How are you two going, after the fight? When Shikamaru looked at her in surprise, she shrugged. I was in the house when you two started yelling. I wish I wasn't. Dad put Naruto in the orphanage to protect Mum and I. I might be selfish, but I could live without knowing what she suffered. Sorry for the yelling. But we're much better. Naruto actually seems more relaxed now that we have an agreement about her past. I think she wanted to tell me, since she's always told me pretty much everything, but it's not something she wants to talk about in general. And I should have just said what I thought at the beginning. I'm glad that you two made up. You're cute together. Shikamaru rolled his eyes seconds before Naruto dropped into his lap. He instantly wrapped his arms around her waist, enjoying the soft fabric of her dress. When she turned her head to look at him, he kissed her. "You're happy today," he commented. "I am." Ryota was trying to see how dark he could make Hinata blush. She fainted. "I've put your cousin in charge of looking after her until she comes around." Naruto laughed before turning to Ino. "Aunt Momiji told me about the medicine you made her. She said that she's feeling stronger, so that's great." "Yeah, it's not a cure, but at least it's a treatment. But that does remind me that I should go take my mum's vitals. I'm taking them every few hours and I think she's already getting annoyed with it." Ino went inside, leaving Shikamaru and Naruto sitting on the porch. "Any chance I can steal you away this afternoon?" Naruto asked, pulling her back against Shikamaru's chest and tilting her head to look up at him. The light hit the headband made out of silver-colored metal leaves. "Do I get to know where we're going?" Nope." Shikamaru buried his face in Naruto's neck, tightening his hold on her as he did. He kissed up her neck until his lips reached her ear where he could reply. "I don't like the idea of letting the rest of the village see you like this." "Why?" "They'll try to steal you with you looking like this." He smiled when Naruto laughed. "I won't let them. And we can get dinner on the way." "On the way where?" "Not telling." Naruto jumped up, staring at him expectantly. With an exaggerated sigh he stood, letting Naruto lead him out of the estate. It was only when they were halfway to the slowly re-establishing shopping district that he noticed the box still in his pocket. He had meant to hide it in his room but had been distracted by Ino and Choji earlier in the day. There was little he could do about it now, but he couldn't help but continue to notice it pressing into his leg. They stopped at Ichiraku Ramen for dinner. Shikamaru was surprised to find out that people had been asking Naruto for her autograph. He should not have been shocked, but it hadn't truly crossed his mind that people would see Naruto as a war hero. He hadn't ever thought about the possibility of someone in their generation gaining that title. Those he had always viewed as war heroes had seemed larger than life to him. The Hokages were literal figures carved in rock, looming over and protecting them. The Sanins and sages were formidable forces that were awe-inspiring. However, Naruto was now a sage. She had reached that level, and from what his uncle Satoru, who had fought alongside sages, said, Naruto's transformation was one of the best. It was hard to believe the student that had struggled the most had left them all so far behind. If it wasn't for his strategic talent, he would have nothing to offer Naruto as a ninja. Luckily for him, his prowess as a fighter didn't matter so much in their relationship. But it was hard for him to fully understand the surprise and awe that the villagers must have as Naruto's abilities, because he had seen her get to this point, and still saw her as that same person he found funny and entertaining in the academy. "This is on the house, by the way," Tucci informed them, with his usual kind smile. "If you keep giving me free food you won't stay in business for long," Naruto joked. "If it helps, he won a heap of money off Captain Yamato, Izumo, Kotetsu, Genma, and Kakashi. They all bet when you two would get together, but Dad was right. I am moved out of the way of her father's friendly shove. I tried to tell them that Shikamaru wouldn't make a move to make it official until not doing so started affecting how you two behaved, but they wouldn't listen. You two have practically been dating since age 12. The amount of times I saw you two together, and when you came back, Naruto, you two mostly came here for your not date nights. I've gotten to see the relationship develop. And when you're Hokage someday, Naruto, and you are a powerful shinobi, Shikamaru, I will be telling everyone how I've seen you two from the start." Tucci was clearly enjoying the blushes he had caused on the couple's faces. "Well, I'm glad we were able to make you money," Shikamaru commented with an eye roll. Tucci just tipped his head at them before serving a new customer. After dinner, Shikamaru followed Naruto through newly built streets. He could tell by the way she looked around that she wasn't too sure of her directions and was looking for landmarks. He knew the feeling. It was uncomfortable being in the village you grew up in, and yet not knowing so many of the streets. When pain had destroyed the village, he had literally made a whole new layer. New earth had needed to be flattened and new roads to be mapped. The blonde led him to one of the more recently built apartment buildings before starting up the stairs to the top apartment. She unlocked the door, walked in, and spun to face Shikamaru. "What do you think?" He swept his gaze over what he could see of the apartment. It was rather spacious, with nice furniture. He walked towards the dining table, noticing that it was made of heavy wood with intricate carving in the legwork. Looking closer, he saw familiar figures in the carvings. The legs had Naruto's friends and some of her best battles detailed into the wood. The table comfortably sat 8, and was clearly made by Captain Yamato. The kitchen was modest but elegant, and walking back into the living room, Shikamaru saw 2 bedrooms. "Is this your apartment?" Shikamaru felt a sting of pain at Naruto's gleeful face. He knew this day had been coming, he just hadn't expected to hate it so much. "Yeah. Captain Yamato and the others finished it the other day. It's bigger than your old one. It's really nice." "It is, isn't it?" Naruto started walking towards one of the bedrooms, not noticing the slight bitterness to Shikamaru's voice. "And look, I have a bathroom in my bedroom." With confusion, Shikamaru followed her only to give a laugh. "It's called an ensuite." "It's awesome." Naruto flopped down onto her large, 4-post bed that Captain Yamato had clearly made. "Too bad the place was finished when I can't use it." Shikamaru sat next to Naruto's sprawling form. The mattress was extremely comfortable, and he was beginning to get the impression that the villagers had made sure to get Naruto high-quality furniture, though he doubted Naruto would have noticed if they hadn't. He started to run his fingers over the ribbon tied around her ribs. The blonde stretched out under his touch, letting his fingers run over the fabric of her dress at his leisure. "What do you mean you can't use it?" "You know how the seal is weakening and Captain Yamato can no longer help suppress the 9 tails. Well, old Granny told me that the Jinchuriki for the 8 tails has learned to control the 8 tails. She's sending me to train with him. I have told her to send someone from the Sealing Corp. With me, one of the best, so that I can always use my other plan if needed." When Shikamaru raised an eyebrow at her, she went on. "I've been studying the seals that were used on the 2 previous 9 tails Jinchurikis, and the one my dad used on me. I've also been studying all the seals that the Uzumakis invented. From what I could tell, the seal is meant to be powered by a part of my chakra, which would limit my chakra supply. That's one of the reasons Uzumakis are used. We have so much chakra. The one I have is actually powered by the 9 tails chakra that is funneled into my supply. Instead of having my chakra cut into, I'm getting more off him. But that is also what was loosening the seal. It wouldn't have loosened so quickly if Pervy Sage hadn't tried to get me to take control of the 9 tails when I wasn't ready. I don't actually remember that. I do remember the bear, though." "Ah, so you were the other beast the village talked about back then." He smiled at the memory of Naruto's letter to him all those years ago. "And this is why you were able to release the sealing jutsu on the Children of Iron. You've been studying how to use seals beyond just for the 9 tails, haven't you?" "Yeah. But I've made a new seal that will use my chakra to lock the 9 tails in. If I use it, though, I'll need someone to remove the seal I currently have quickly and help me put the new seal into place. It's dangerous, obviously, but it's only a last-case scenario, for if the 9 tails is about to get out thing. Why didn't the 4th put that kind of seal on you to begin with?" "Because he believed that I could be the first to tame the 9 tails. I hope I can prove him right." Shikamaru gave a laugh as he laid down next to Naruto. "I have no doubt that you will. You've done many things that appeared impossible, and you've won over the entire village. One fox is no match for you." He turned his head to look at Naruto. "When do you leave?" "In 2 days. "Crap. You're going to miss your birthday." "So?" "Ino and Choji were planning a surprise party. But I can give you your present. I found it today when I was helping a clansman move into his new shop." Naruto sat up so she could look down at him. "Oh? Hey, that reminds me, I have something for you." Naruto reached over, taking something off the nightstand. She held it out to him triumphantly. "A key?" "For the apartment," Naruto confirmed, letting Shikamaru take the key from her hands. "This way you won't be stuck outside till I get home. You can just let yourself in. And I've already bought some of that horrible coffee for you. It's the brand you like. That reminds me, the local grocery store is open, I don't know if you've been told. And I bought a mug that says Can't Talk, drinking coffee, which I thought you'd like." Shikamaru stared at the key, realizing what it must mean for Naruto to trust him with a key and to invite him to enter her house whenever he wanted. More than just enter, but also to treat as his own. "Thank you, Naruto." So, what's my present? With a laugh, Shikamaru pulled the box smaller than his palm out of his pocket. As Naruto took it and opened the lid, he wondered if she would actually like it or think it was stupid instead. The fact that she sat there with a surprised look on her face didn't help. It's 2 fish, Shikamaru stated, pushing himself up with his elbows. When he had seen the fish delicately engraved into the green jade, he had remembered what Naruto had told him during one of her lowest moments. He had instantly asked Hideo how much it was and bought it on the spot. Naruto pulled it out of the box, still staring at the pendant. I love it! She instantly put it on, getting up to look at it in the mirror someone had hung on her wall. Shikamaru could see her smile in the reflection. When she made eye contact with him in the mirror, she tilted her head in question. Why are you staring at me? You are obviously not aware that you're really beautiful and send my brain to mush. The blonde gave a small laugh before turning to face Shikamaru, fingering the pendant. We promised to be honest, right? Yeah, Shikamaru agreed slowly, wondering where this was heading. Well, I'm scared. Naruto didn't move closer, instead wrapping an arm around her stomach, her other hand still touching the pendant. The first time I left was right after you kissed me, and when I came back it was like it never happened. Except maybe when you were drunk and asked me to kiss you, but you also mentioned Temari thinking you were weak. So I thought you liked her, and you just wanted someone who would show you affection to help with the heartache. And then the second time, you didn't bring up our date planned for ages, so I assumed you weren't interested anymore. I'm scared that when I go away this time that you might decide that you don't want to be with me anymore, or you'll just disappear. Shikamaru swallowed around the lump in his throat. There was a chance that he would disappear in the inevitable battle with Madara's forces. The man was almost at godly status in the mind of ninjas when the first Hokage defeated him, and there was no one at the first level alive to sway the tide of this battle. However, there was no way for him to tell Naruto any of this since she was Madara's main target, and if she knew about the war she wouldn't hide from the threat. Instead of lying to her, and saying it would be fine, he took another approach. What do you need to be reassured that I don't want to go backwards with us? With a soft smile, Naruto shook her head. There's nothing I need. I just feel scared, but I trust you to not hurt me. Both other times you were doing what you thought was right, and I can't fault you for that given where we are. Man, I have been spending too much time with the Naras. I almost sound sophisticated. You did that on purpose, he chuckled. Naruto grinned before slowly walking closer, almost timidly. I have gotten better at knowing what I want, though. I'm glad. Everyone deserves to go after what they want at times. What is it you want? When Naruto slowly drew a leg over Shikamaru's waist, situating herself on top of him, Shikamaru felt his heartbeat increase. She put her hands on his chest, gazing down at him. I want you to tell me that you love me. Smiling, he put his hands on her exposed eyes. Happily. I love you, Naruto. Tell me that when you touch me you're only thinking about me, no one else, Naruto requested gently. Her eyes had taken on a soft look that Shikamaru hadn't seen before, and that stilled his breath. The blue of her eyes were made brighter by her dress, and to add to the effect her tan skin drew subtle attention to the bright, form-fitting outfit. That dress was definitely going to be the death of him, meaning he would be so busy staring at Naruto he'd accidentally walk off a cliff. Sitting up and moving his hands up to her waist, not realizing he had pushed up her dress, Shikamaru met her gaze. He hoped that Naruto would never stop looking at him with that look in her eyes. You're always the only one I think about. Whether I'm touching you or not. Naruto leant down until their chests pressed together. She gave him a lingering kiss before pulling back, her hands on his shoulders. Do you want me? Even after everything you found out about me? Always, he breathed. The smile that Naruto gave him made his insides squirm. She kissed him deeply. Whatever was in her gaze that Shikamaru couldn't quite identify was mirrored in that one kiss. All of Shikamaru's senses zeroed in on Naruto. He noticed the brush of her hair against his face, the fabric of her dress as he ran his fingers up and down her legs, and the feel of Naruto tugging gently on his shirt. He pulled back enough to let Naruto throw the shirt to the floor. When she went to kiss him again, he pulled back enough to whisper against her lips. Naruto, if this is like last time, he started. It's not, she assured gently. That's all Shikamaru needed to hear to hold Naruto tighter, kissing her heatedly. He didn't realize he had removed her dress until he felt her bare skin under his touch. He couldn't help but enjoy her squeal of surprise when he grabbed her naked waist and quickly rolled them so that he loomed over her. And here I was think you'd like to be surprised, he chuckled before kissing her neck. Naruto gave a breathy laugh. I like it. I'm just used to me being the unpredictable one. Shikamaru just kissed her lips again, feeling her smile mirroring his own. You've gained some sophistication, and I've gained some unpredictability. Naruto just gave an amused roll of her eyes before burying her fingers in his hair and pulling him down to kiss her feverishly. The cool touch of the jade pendant brushed against his chest as he pressed her into the mattress below. He knew that the upcoming war wasn't going to be easy, and that the village was still recovering from pain, but he honestly couldn't care less at that moment. In this apartment, the outside world could be on fire, and they wouldn't have noticed. This apartment wasn't marred with the screams of a child, the door didn't have 4 deadbolts, and the furniture was selected with affection, not just practicality. Shikamaru could see why Naruto had been eager to show him the place. It actually looked like a proper home for her, and the fact that she had made sure to add things specifically for him made him feel more than welcome. The bitterness he had felt upon first seeing it had been replaced with joy that he and Naruto now had a place where they could escape the world or the prying eyes of the village. Hey guys! This is part 11 of What If Naruto is hiding her identity, and secretly a girl. Hit like and subscribe if you like this one, and also please check